Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 423. Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, remotely dialing in to Johnny V as I
can't get enough
hang
of me,
out
buddy.
in. No, I was home for 1 week. That was one time in studio with you, and I decided to hit the road yet again.
What does that say about me?
Everything everyone needs to know. If I have now been away from you something like 4 out of the last 5 weeks or 5 out of the last 6, I'm just saying you should take a hint.
Hey, listen, my family hasn't left me yet. I feel pretty good.
Well, that's
I keep
then
the
I
doors
guess
locked.
you're doing all right.
But
Yeah. So tonight, of course, USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships on our mind. Really, the second to last big event of the year. We'll also talk about the next big event of the year, which is going to be next week, of course, when we're talking about the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. But this week, Throw Pink and USDGC on the mind. Of course, there's some other news and things that have come about. We'll talk about a few of the hot topics that are going on out there in the disc golf community. And like I said, we'll talk about this week's major and big events. But before we do that, it's almost like this. It's October. I think about my old high school days. I think about what it would be like to have been friends with this guy. So in our glorious homecoming of sorts, we're going to bring in Dynamite Dana Vici.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Dana, buddy, pal, we miss you. How you doing?
I got to bring up the stinger.
I cannot believe you still have that intro. That you guys care. You didn't throw that in the trash can.
You could say that, or we're a little too lazy to get around to cleaning up files. So either way, either we love you and don't want to forget you, or just simply too lazy to do our jobs better. Either way, you're here. And Dana, it's been way too long. What's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Just living life, work, kids, trying to squeeze some disc golf in, fighting injuries as I get older. You know, watching and enjoying the show that we've had all year long on the Disc Golf Network. Watching disc golf, trying to take it in, and yeah.
So just because there's a few people that are new here, disc golf continues to grow. You continue to sell discs and work with Discmania. You continue to design and develop courses. But for those who aren't intimately familiar with you, give everyone a super quick rundown in your background here and why you're a regular here on the show.
Yeah, Smashies. For those that have been tuning in over these last couple of years, I started on from the beginning, Smashbox #1 with Terry and Johnny, and was a weekly guest. Would come in and talk about the previous week's events and other random news, typically before the main guest. But yeah, these last few years have found me busy with family. I've got a couple of young kids and a real job now. I used to travel around and play disc golf and design courses and all that. I still do play disc golf, but just more casually, and still do design courses. But yeah, now I work for Discmania, and yeah, just been a blink. It's hard to, I don't even remember the last episode I've been on, and I know it was pretty sporadic before then, but it has been a while.
All right. Well, of course, welcome back. We're always glad to have you anytime. And like you said, you've been quite busy, especially with 2 young kids that like to go to bed right when we start. I don't know if you're not training them right, but
don't listen to Terry when it comes to children and bedtime. Okay, like we are all in different spots. My kids go to bed at like 7. To maybe
yeah.
My daughter goes to bed at 7. My son usually about 8:30. Terry's kids go to bed the next day. Usually the clock strikes 12 and they're like, maybe it's bedtime after I check in a few more social media TikTok sites.
I mean, just the older one. So, but with that, Dana, I think back to many, many years ago, you were at the USDGC, you've played in a couple of them, and you know how big the USDGC is. And so it's awesome to have you here. And here we are now 2 nights ahead. They've pushed it back. Typically for the last few years, we've been starting on Wednesday. So Tuesday night has led right into a Wednesday start. This year, they're pushing it back. It's Thursday through Sunday. But talk to us about, as someone who works for a manufacturer, someone who's played, someone who's a professional, and then yet you work intimately with, professionals like Eagle and Simon and Ella and everyone else on Team Discmania that you know. What does this week kind of mean for disc golf and for our players?
Yeah, it's traditionally it had been the culmination of the year. Historically, USDGC was the final event of the season, the final major event of the season. Of course, there'd be some random 8 tiers and usually down south, but it's the culmination of the season. And now we've got the Disc Golf Pro Tour finals the following week, so it's really the big the grand finale of the year. It's been a long year. The season starts in February now, and there's huge events. Disc Golf Pro Tour, whether on the regular tour or Silver Series, we're back to having majors again. So long season, and this is kind of the, it's in the player, it's in the back of their minds all year, and it's been getting bigger and bigger, and then just had this epic East Coast swing, and then right down into Rock Hill, and it's usually great weather, although there's been a few rainy years. But man, there's no place I'd rather be in early October than Rock Hill, South Carolina. I've got some really great memories of playing disc golf, hanging out, doing Monday qualifying. Not qualifying, of course, but trying to qualify. But yeah, I don't know. I think I played in the event maybe 5 times in my career, and I've got some really special memories from playing there, because it's just, rag on it all you want, call it what you will. It's one of the biggest events of the year, and it means a lot to the players. And it meant a lot to me when I was playing to qualify and to play and to cash and, play with my heroes and watch them win, and, watch the action go down on hole 17, and, thinking about some playoffs that I saw there as well. But yeah, just great vibes all around. And it takes me back to my early days. And when I was just getting into disc golf, I got the USDGC DVD from where Kenny and Barry have the playoff, and I just watched that. I wore that DVD out so many times, and then to gotten to play there, and then now to watch, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and to think, living in yesteryear and talking about what this event has meant to disc golf, we think about usually the largest payouts of the year were here. And of course, the Pro Tour Championship has come along and kind of dwarfed that in the last couple of years. But, it was always this anticipation of, was it going to be 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever, or $15,000? And we were talking about the largest payouts. I remember a very big conversation piece was, hey, the top 20 are getting $1,000. And that was truly groundbreaking and unheard of at the time. And now, again, as we've continued to grow and thrive, it's crazy to think like the payouts are so much grander now, just in general, where this doesn't even necessarily stand out from a payouts perspective, although it'll be hefty, I'm sure. But it's been interesting to see this evolution, and payout is a big reason. Yeah.
And then another, major thing that's evolved is the throw pink is bringing the women in. Historically, it had just been USDGC, one division, one champion, and we'd have a few female competitors over the years. Shout out Juliana, I believe the only female to ever cash, right? But yeah, so we've got the throw pink, so we've got the best women here in the world competing at the arena or Winthrop Gold. So yeah, just super exciting. And now this year it's going to be live on the Disc Golf Network. There's no paywall. Get to watch disc golf all day for 4 days in a row if you want. I know I'll have it in on the background, or at least have a earbud in listening to the broadcast.
Yeah, it's been we've seen the media here also undergo, just like the course and just like the philosophy to the rules and everything else. USDGC has never been shy about taking on a new approach. And I think that's been very evident even from a media perspective, whether it's very early goings of pay-per-view, some of the earliest event to ever be broadcast live in general with Disc Golf Planet TV, different pay-per-view models, some post-production, some delayed post-production, just really everything that's ever been tried in disc golf at one point, I feel like has been tried at this event as well. So what do you think about the model we've landed on, that everything is available, assuming you're a standard Disc Golf Network subscriber? Do you feel like that should appease enough people, Dana?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it provides value for the Pro Tour and the Disc Golf Network to not have it behind a paywall. And even though, like, I understood last year why it was behind a paywall, but there were some pretty loud voices out there, as there usually are, about it, being a ripoff that you had to pay and all that. But I understood it. But I'm glad that whatever happened, and it's now part of the subscription. And I'm hopeful that the Disc Golf Network sees a nice bump in subs this week, and that that you guys and the rest of the team can put on a heck of a show like you have all year long.
It's really funny because normally I push for options. Like, I always want people to have as many options as you want. So if you want to pay for USDGC, do it. If not, don't. But they really took that away from you this year, so to speak, by making it part of the regular slate. And then also at the beginning of the season, there was like a $1 or $2 increase, which probably more or less covered what your payment would have been. So everybody was made to pay for the event, whether you wanted it or not. And I think a lot more people are happy with a pay increase and it including USDGC versus maybe a lower price point and having to pay for USDGC separate. It's all about perception, honestly.
Good point there, Johnny.
Yeah, no matter what, you're going to find people that are going to have their version or their complaint or their, they're going to want their way with it. I mean, I even saw somebody today make a post that basically said, wait, I don't know what's going on, and almost had this frustrated feeling. And it's like, no, you're already a member. They stated as much. You're already a member. Just go click on it. Like, it's that easy. Like, there should be no complaint, so to speak, whatsoever, if you're already a member and tuned in and ready to go. So, of course, Dana, as a course designer yourself, and just in general, like I said, they're never shy about pushing the envelope or getting creative when it comes to course design. And to me, one of the biggest stories of this year, and it's subtle in a lot of ways, but removing the upper rope and only having the lower rope, and just having that change. Like, what is your initial take on how they've done that this year?
Yeah, so I've been casually following along. So the upper rope no longer there, but they've got a mowing. They have ceased to mow along the out of bounds line and have a string along the bottom.
Yes, and I'll add on to that. Not only is it a string, they came in with I figured it'd be a fancier tool, but no, they went the hard way with this. They said they came in with two like weed whackers at like 45-degree angles, opposing each other, and essentially like created a trench of sorts. And that's what the OB string. So it's basically laid, flush or even below grade, and that's what's laid on the ground for the thousands upon thousands of feet. Like I thought there's some fancy, I don't know, light trenching tool they used. No, it was two people, edging through thousands and thousands of feet, and then secured the rope not only within the trench, but then also secured it to the ground additionally, where there's no upper rope whatsoever.
I could have just sent my kid there to do weed whacking because I think that's how he does it. It's in my yard when we're done.
At angle from two different sides?
Well, more or less. I mean, whatever. Okay. So, well, I think that's really interesting. The way they're I haven't seen any pictures of it yet.
Yeah, I could put some out there, but Dana, the rope was rope wasn't invented at the USDGC, but rope identifying artificial OB, I mean, that's a patented Sunstein move of the USDGC for more than 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, again, love it or hate it, it was iconic. It's part of the arena. Part of Winthrop Gold was the rope and the upper level, but I like the evolution. I like the sound of it, the more natural look. And then also, part of, as we've transitioned from out of bounds to hazards and places, and then, that upper rope getting in the way. So it's going to be nice that, discs aren't going to hit stakes. They're not going to hit the rope. Players are, if they're, find themselves in the hazard, they're going to be able to, not have to navigate throwing over a rope or whatever the case. But, I got to Innova and the USDGC crew. They've done a lot of things. Some they've whiffed on some of it. Others they've hit the nail on the head. And this sounds like a nice change and something that we might see moving forward, because let's face it, the USDGC it has an effect on the disc golf world, and we kind of saw that when I was in my touring days. I used to call it the USDGC effect. I'd go to an A tier and they'd have their a solid course tricked out with insane OB and tight and crazy rules and all of this, and it wasn't always great.
Every A tier had a hay bale hole at one point. I think it was like everybody wanted to be hole 17 for a year or two. I remember even Mad City Open, we went there one year and I'm like, oh cool, they've got a hay bale island hole this year again. And they really do set the tone. When they try something new, it feels like it really does trickle down into the rest of disc golf, for better or worse sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many mozzarella sticks out there, but definitely hay bales and very tight out of bounds. But again, some of it for better, some of it for worse. And this team here at Winthrop and Innova, they put their heart and soul into it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got another quick story that I got out of JP yesterday, Jonathan Poole, event coordinator who's been in charge for a couple decades. As they're going to play hole 3 to 4 this year, quote unquote safari hole. He said that more than 25 years ago, when him and his buddy came out here and would play their own safari layout before they even started talking about a USDGC existing, that was the hole that they played, was from 3's tee to 4's basket. And he says there's just something exciting and surreal about all of these years later. Of course, it's been 2 separate holes or variations of those holes now for 2 decades. And for them to play, he said that was the original hole ever designed before the USDGC was the USDGC. And it was just such a cool story. Him and a college buddy who came out and used to play the course and would make up their own holes. And then that's when that kind of became the, the starting grounds for him then pitching to Harold, hey, let's take our existing course, let's trick it out, make it way more difficult, and then let's offer this, as an Elite Series event. That went on to be the USDGC. So pretty cool to hear that story. So, Dana, of course, there's a lot of conversation USDGC. Last year, we though saw, or 2 years ago, we saw Throw Pink step up into a void because there was one less major for the women, being the United States Women's Disc Golf Championships didn't take place in 2020 due to COVID. So then at that point, Sarah Nicholson and Innova and the crew all said, hey, we're going to hold a Throw Pink event. And then that has become essentially a staple here at Winthrop as well, now called the Winthrop Arena. Does there need to be a different distinction? And what I mean by that is, people are naturally kind of treating it like it's also a major, even though technically it's not, but it very much still feels like one. We're on the same grounds. They get treated as well as any men, have throughout the years. And do we care about a distinction if it's a major or a large scale A tier? Is there a change that needs to happen?
I think there's a change that could happen. There's a lot at play there because obviously we've got the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship, which was in Madison, Wisconsin earlier this year and rotates throughout the country. And but from my chair, it almost feels like we've probably outgrown that model for the women, and that this is no knock on any U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships, but they deserve a major in the same vein as the men do with the United States Disc Golf Championships. So I personally wouldn't mind seeing it be a major for the women, and possibly the United States Women's Disc Golf Championships as well. That just kind of on paper anyways, just looking at it from the outside without considering any of the back end politics or back end things that not everybody is thinking about. I think it would be great for the women, and then maybe that Throw Pink can be a rotating event, because the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship it's not just open, it's all the different divisions. So there's some things to work through on that. And but again, on paper, just talking here with you guys, to me it makes sense to make it a major for the women and possibly call it the United States Women's Disc Golf Championships. So they have that end of year major, and that always like the men are always looking forward to Winthrop and everything. And that's not to take anything away from what they've built, what Sarah has built and Innova has built with the Throw Pink, because it is every bit of a major. It just doesn't have that M next to it. So yeah.
It'll be
is
interesting.
It crazy?
I'll say it'll be interesting next year when USWDGC is in late September, and then you've got 2 weeks before Throw Pink. I mean, I think that the way Throw Pink is perceived, as we all say, it feels like a major. It does. I mean, they are getting treated just as well as every other male professional out there. So there is almost, other than the behind the scenes stuff, there's no distinction between the major at USDGC and the Throw Pink. But when you put the USWDGC 2 weeks in front of this, I'll say USWDGC has gotten some flack over the last few years. I feel like this year in Madison really picked it up. A lot of people were wishy-washy about the courses, but it proved to be very solid competition for many of the women. But I will say next year, USWDGC has to be better, or it's going to look, it's not going to look good coming 2 weeks before Throw Pink.
I have a hard time saying, it needs to be better, because I feel like the hosts have, lived up to what they had signed up for. Yeah. And that's, we're talking
it's
a lot
perception,
of, we're talking
though, unfortunately.
And we're talking pre-pandemic, and a lot has changed. And we're talking about, events like being awarded the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship, and then we had the pandemic and pushed back. So it's going to be interesting to see, with obviously it on the schedule next year, if there is going to be a major change. And I'd also, would be really interested to hear what what the women think, and what the Throw Pink organizers think, and what they want. So again, this is just my personal opinions from here, but again, there's a lot of different things at play. And then, as mentioned, there's, the politics behind it, more or less, because we're talking about a major that is owned by Innova, not by the PDGA, where the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championships that's a PDGA major. So there's a lot of things at play. Does Innova just get the major, or do they want the major, and do they want to continue with the Throw Pink? So
yeah, and I think, and maybe to put this to bed, the one final thought I have is I think we just need to either evaluate or reevaluate what we want out of the U.S. Women's Championships, which has been this collection of women as one of the largest women's only events that takes place every year. And it's truly been this like family togetherness, everybody atmosphere. And we all know from being at and running large scale events, it's nearly impossible these days to appease everyone from an 8-year-old to an 88-year-old in both amateur and professional rankings, to not only appease them in terms of the scoring and the course challenges that present themselves, but then from an extracurricular standpoint, it's very difficult to make sure you're planning activities that apply to a 13-year-old as well as a 73-year-old, where everyone's engaged and having a good time. Like, that's a massive undertaking. And so I definitely do not want to underplay any of that challenge. And I think that's the same conversation we've had about our worlds, both pro and am, and age protected and junior and everything else, is what's our end goal? Are we most focused on most people? Are we focused on the competition? Are we focused on family, camaraderie, and togetherness? Like, those are all the different things that have to be discussed, because then I think you really tunnel in, or you really hone in on the overall events deliverables, because it's otherwise impossible. I mean,
the USWGC
this weekend has 40-some women that are all our top professionals that qualified. That is not the same mentality as the USWDGC has. It's very different. So we just need to recognize and proceed with caution.
And the USWDGC has always been almost on a weekend of its own. There's not competing with anything. Like, there's no men to overshadow it. So, like it or not, this Throw Pink still, they're treated just as well, everything. But let's be honest, the focus is USWD or USDGC. That is the bigger focus for a lot of people. Whether some people are FPO fans and they're probably watching Throw Pink and excited, but USDGC is a beast. It's a history. It's a, and it's hard not to be overshadowed if you're Throw Pink. And so there is something nice about USWDGC being by itself, being the focal point of an entire weekend where you don't have to think about, well, is there going to be a Paul Ricky battle? Nobody cares.
Yeah, sure.
So again, it's all what we want out of the events. We've talked about this a couple of times over the last few weeks. And what does Throw Pink want, and what does USWDGC want? We'll figure that out in the next year or two.
We'll shift kind of in. I mean, this is in a similar conversation, but this kind of feels like we could segue into the new schedule. That's kind of been the big news, is that we've seen the new schedule released for 2023 when it comes to our Elite Series events. Majors have been decided upon and such, but Elite Series events, namely the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the Silver Series, the Silver Series and the Euro Tour events.
It's just silver now. They're just silver events. It's not Silver Series. They've renamed them. They're just the silver events.
Okay, I hope I didn't confuse anyone then.
I'm just saying, Terry, We want to be grammatically correct here.
Since when? So Dana, the question is, and I'm guessing you didn't sit down, you're not on tour, and you didn't pull out your calendars and start, etching things in. But was there anything that did, jump off the page at you? Any either shocks or surprises or things that you just were in complete disbelief of? Anything?
One big one, and this is just personally, but been working closely with some partners and friends up in Canada, and one of them being Ben Smith, who's ran the Canadian Nationals, the last handful of iterations of that event. He's now working to run the Discmania Open in Canada, and seeing that pop up on the as a silver event was a pleasant surprise. Although they are coming out of they were hit pretty hard by that hurricane. The first one, I'm forgetting the name of it, but anyways, their courses were hit pretty hard. So a July date was a little bit of a surprise, but as I understand, they're talking with the Pro Tour about how to approach that. But seeing one of the other things that really jumped out was the Elite Plus. We've got a couple of those. Hopefully I called it the right thing. I don't want to confuse you, Johnny. But I believe Ledgestone and the Portland Open are going to be Elite Plus events. So have to imagine, we know what the Ledgestone is, and the Portland Open has been a newer event that there's, just a killer scene out in Portland. They've been at the Glendevere the last couple of years, an amazing venue. So I'm excited to see what that turns into. But those were a few of the first thoughts, was the addition of the Plus, and then seeing the Discmania Open on there.
Yeah, I feel like the Elite Plus series it's a way to emphasize specific events, and and they're worth more points. They're worth more tour points. They're supposed to be probably bigger purses, better fan experience, more media, whatever that means. We don't know that yet. But I kind of feel like making the Portland an Elite Plus is a way to help force players' hands to go there. Because we saw a few players that just don't make the West Coast swing, or they may pick a different event. I feel like this might be a way to kind of make sure that all of our top pros are hitting the events that we want them to. I think that it might not be the primary reason, but it's definitely a secondary reason.
Maybe, I don't know, as I understand it, and most players, like, that West Coast swing is coveted in the early part of the year. The players love it. The fans are great out there. So yeah, the interest. I'm not sure I agree with that, but maybe it was in the back of the minds of the Pro Tour organizers.
I mean,
the West Coast.
It's really pricey to go out to the West Coast. We all know it. We know players that will win events out there and still come out at a loss. It's tough. Yeah. And that was talking about the West Coast. I know there's been a ton of chatter, mainly from disc golfers out west, at the lack of events in that region. And it's, you look at that overhead map, and it's heavy Midwest and East Coast, where disc golf is huge out on the West Coast as well, and those mountain states, and it's don't really see too much on there. I know this year we saw the match play stop over in Colorado, and I personally love seeing the change of scenery and the change of style of golf, because as we all know, mountain golf is its own beast. So it will be great to see maybe a
a little bit more in terms of the mountains, and maybe some more love on the West Coast. But for me here in my chair, it was just fun to see and start speculating and thinking about, oh, could I go to this event, or could I do this? Of course, I'm not talking about playing. I don't even know if I'll be able to get into any of these events anymore, but could go watch.
You could vend.
Now,
put up a Discmania tent.
A couple of things to that. First of all, how do you feel about the general response when it sounds as if players kind of stated, hey, we don't like playing at elevation? You mentioned, it's a different challenge, but some players basically have the mentality of, we don't want to go play in that place where you're essentially playing very different golf for one weekend or 2 weekends out of the year. Do you fall in the camp of, yeah, that's understandable, why have it be so drastically different one or 2 weeks out of the year? Or do you fall in the camp of, hey, suck it up, you're a professional, dealing with different winds, different weathers, different temperatures, different elevations? That's all part of being a professional disc golfer. Do you fall in one of those two camps, Dana?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a little ridiculous to put up a big stink about going and playing in the mountains. I want to see our players go throughout the season and play in different, in different venues and different styles of golf. We've got wooded courses. We've got the hybrid golf course layouts. We've got the, Maple Hill. We've got all these different styles of courses, and I want to see the best players go out and win in different environments, or see how they play. If I know that they're not a strong woods player, I want to go see them play in the woods. If they're not, I want to see someone, get out of their comfort zone and, play in these different regions. And I think that's also important for the growth of the Pro Tour and growth of the sport. We need to touch as many of these regions as possible and build the fan base and build the professional side of things and show these towns and cities what the Pro Tour is all about. And I definitely fall on the side of, let's play different styles of disc golf, even if it's only one or 2 weekends in the middle of the year, or whatever portion of the year. I want to see it. And then, as if I was a player, if I was still a player, I would embrace it. Or, if I dislike it so much, then like I've always done, I would not go. If there's, an event that I don't like the course or the region or whatever it is, I'm not going to go. And so don't sign up, or, you're not going to be on the coverage. You're going to lose points. You're not going to, be out there, meeting new players, meeting new fans in different places. It's a great opportunity to grow not only your brand, promote the brand that you play for, but, promote disc golf in general.
Unless you show up, play terrible, and then have a bad attitude about it. And then it might have been better you just didn't show up at all. And I'm just being devil's advocate here. Like you said, some players have actively said, I don't like that style of golf. I don't like those style of courses. I'm likely either not going to perform well, or monetarily, I'm not going to come out ahead. And they choose to forego it, take extra time off, or go find courses and events that suit them more. Obviously some people adapt and take on that, mentality as well. So I totally understand both sides of it. I don't think there's a right or a wrong per se, but it'll be interesting to see if we will have more golf in those areas like you're describing. And I guess this is also the segue to two things. One, first of all, can we all get back on board? Even if you're not, get on board. A tiers are 3 days. Disc Golf Pro Tours are 3 days. Majors are 4 days.
Nope.
Worlds are 5 days.
Nope. That's
just saying. That's not how we're doing it.
That's not how it's ever going to be done.
Somebody go ahead and
Nope.
Go ahead and timestamp it, because that's how it should be done.
Anyway, take that idea, write it on a piece of toilet paper, walk to your bathroom, and flush it. It's gone.
All
It'll
right.
never happen
How
now.
about
Now that we have Elite Series Plus events that are all 4 days, you will never get a time when we get to a specific set like that. It's just, I agree with
I
you.
know.
I would love
I
it,
know.
but that idea is gone. Just blow your nose with it and throw it in the trash can, Terry. It's never going to happen.
I know it should be. And then while we're at it, while we're blowing our nose in the wind, I think that's the official phrase, right? While we're doing that, I'd like to just add right in there, for the love of God, people, there's 100 reasons why there's not a tournament in your area. They usually start with the two biggest. The two biggest being, well, it has to start with somebody has to put in a bid to host any form of large scale event. That's the most obvious, like the single most obvious. They're not just literally throwing a dart at the calendar and saying, yep, that city's hosting a pro tour event or a major. All right. So somebody has to put in a bid. And part of that bid has to be a qualified organizing committee along with courses that suit it. If you're missing any of those three things, shut the F up. Like it's beyond, it's every year. So I know I'm just going to beat this drum every year, but you have to, there's 97 other things, but those are the three that immediately jump off the page. All right. You have to put in a bid, you have to have the courses, and you have to have an organizing committee that's qualified to even host an event. So that's, if you don't check any of those boxes, don't worry about the other 96 boxes if you check them or not. You have to check all three of those. And it's just, when our tour schedule is released, the barrage of people that then, complain and say, we don't have an event. Why don't we have an event? There's your answer. All right.
And then you also have to consider maybe those event directors, they like to do things their own way. There's the pro tour is great, but you also, when you're running an event, you've built it up, then you're all right. I want to be on the pro tour. You've got to change maybe your historical date. You've got to change this. You have to do things differently and not play by the rules that you have built. And that's not a bad thing. That's, but some events might want to say, hey, I'm going to do things my way. And we're going to, we love the pro tour and watching it, but that's a lot of work. And maybe we don't want to do it this time of year, X, Y, and Z.
What's the added cash requirement for an A tier? Is it 2,500 or 5,000 now? I know it's been a while, but just assume it's either one of those. To be a pro tour event, I think you have to have at least $15,000 added cash. I think there's a huge.
That sounds roughly right. Yeah, 12,500 was the last I heard, and that was a year
like
or two ago.
Sure,
so
and
that's probably.
I'll tell you what. If you only raise 12,500, you're going to be probably the smallest DGPT event.
True.
Because there is a huge jump from when even if you have an established A tier, an A tier that's been running for 7 years and it's been great, it fills up and it runs so smoothly. That TD might not have the capacity to fundraise that amount of money. So there's so many things that even if you have those things, it's such a difficult thing to ask somebody as to do in our sport, is to run a pro tour event or a major.
Yeah,
or whatever we're doing.
And then kind of along that note, I don't want to say it's quite my final word on it, but also just know there's still just 52 weekends in a year, and inevitably something's going to conflict somewhere.
We're only covering like 30 of them, Terry. We have all winter.
There's going to be like 2,500 sanctioned events, or 3,000 or 10,000 sanctioned events next year, whatever the number is. There's just going to be a conflict. Does it suck? Absolutely. I miss my favorite 2 events of the year every year for the last 5 years because I'm working a pro tour event, and I would love to go play and be at another event, but there's just going to be conflicts. And I understand that some of them suck. Some suck more than another. I get it, but there's going to be a conflict, and people just cannot seem to think past themselves when it comes to some of these conflicts. And there's like a point B to that, a subsection to that, which is if you can't play in a pro tour event and in a Masters age protected event on the same weekend because they conflict, again, make up your mind. What do you care about? Is it unfortunate they overlap? Of course it is for you. But we're talking about a handful of people. We are talking about just literally a handful of people that can perform well at a Masters event and perform well on an Elite Series event. Your Johnny McRae's and your Barry Schultz's and your own Scoggins and a handful of others. Is it suck they conflict? Sure, but we have to appease thousands of others, not 6 people that this afflicts. So I don't know. That's my ranting for now, but I just wish people would think outside of themselves for a moment. There's so much more to it than just you and your schedule, including the TDs, like you just mentioned. There's so much more.
We'll kind of just coast off of that thought. Alan Risley brings up it's $3,000 for an A tier and now $25 for an Elite Series. It's twice
$25,000 added.
For an Elite
you have to
Series.
Have to host an Elite Series event.
Yeah. So speaking
That's
of
amazing,
all of that money, it was also announced today of the Pro Tour finale this year.
What?
The Pro Tour Championships is $302,000 purse. They like to just get it up just barely above $300,000. So $302,000. And last year we had some really cool sponsors in Guarantee Rate Mortgage, I believe, Johnsonville Brats, and somebody else. But this year, Barbasol Shaving Cream. Dana, you look like you need to shave. Terry, I shaved today. Shaving a haircut.
You shaved it last year. We know you did, Johnny.
No, I shaved this morning because if I'm going to get a haircut, I always shave in general. But the funny thing is, as everyone says, our disc golfers don't really use Barbasol to shave. They use them to dye discs.
Mm-hmm.
Buying nonetheless, right?
That's right. Exactly. Just, we're finding a use for something that isn't necessarily, because let's be honest, our hairy hippies that play on the course aren't going to shave, but they are going to dye discs. So what do you think about that number, Dana? $302,000. And MPO and FPO, I believe the top 4 or 5 spots all get paid the same. It's like $35,000 and then $12,000. I'd have to look at the numbers for sure, but they're equal right down the line.
Yeah.
See, I feel like instead of like pumping it all in this year, they should be like going back and paying the players that made the finals and didn't get a lot of money,
like the ones in like 2018
retrofitting.
and 2019, maybe 2017.
Hey, I'm good with that as long as we're going back to 2010 and retro paying media personalities. If as long as we do that too, dating back to 2010.
Yeah, huge number, and I've been torn about the timing of the Pro Tour finals because call me old school, but again, Winthrop, USDGC, like the practice rounds, and then four rounds on the course after a long season. To me, again, it's always felt like the end of the season, and then to come back around that next week with the biggest payout ever and this huge event, I feel like, gosh, I almost wish it was. I understand why it is when it is, but great on them for getting added cash and the outside sponsors last year. This year, it's just we're going to continue to see these new big names come in and sponsor disc golf. But if players weren't hyped up about the Pro Tour finals, they damn well better be now after seeing those payouts, because that's some disc golf rich money right there.
It certainly is. It's funny how quickly, feeding off of what you said, how quickly we all felt that way about USDGC just 2 years ago. Like 2 to 3 years ago, everyone was saying, man, the Pro Tour after USDGC, it just feels like we should be wrapped up. I don't get that I haven't heard that in 2 years. Honestly, I haven't heard anyone say that on social media, on anything. Everybody gets pumped for the Pro Tour finale because of the money they've pumped into it. They did exactly what they needed to do in order to make this to quickly establish this event as a premier event. Because had they not added a bunch of this extra money, it would have continued to feel like an afterthought. But by throwing and sponsoring and getting all this money into the event, they immediately pushed it up to a premier event that players look forward to. And now that is the end of our season. And, with the exception of like the wraparound Silver Series that no one who really tours regularly is probably going to play. You might get a few locals, but you're not going to probably get your big guys to go and play. But the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships is the end of the season now, and it's amazing how quickly we can adjust.
Well, Terry, I know you got a point, but Johnny, talking about these Silver Series, because it is Silver Series this year, events at the end of the year, those points go for next year. So, I mean, some of these players that are on the outside looking in, they might be booking flights or planning trips to where is it? Virginia and Florida? Is that where the get a jump start on those points? Because I mean, man, as I proved a few times, you just got to get in. You got to get in and then get hot at the right time for the Pro Tour finals, and it can be, it can be a life changer. It wasn't for me, but maybe for someone else.
How I know Dana's old? Because he's like, yeah. I'm proof of that. Whereas of last year we had Nathan Queen, who came from the first round, barely got in, and won $30,000. But no, Dana, your run back in the late 2010s proves it.
It was even before that.
We'll never forget, Dana. We'll never forget.
I'm here for you, brother. You almost took down that Macbeth character.
Yeah, cheater. Let's put it this way, and maybe the final thought on it is that the Pro Tour, like you guys just said, with the added cash and going even after the USDGC, I think wants to ultimately overshadow. I mean, let's be real. They have an absurd amount of money. They have had for the last few years. This year's no different, and I don't think it's at all out of line or even a question that the Pro Tour wants to be like a major and or supersede a major. You're talking about the stiffest competition on tough courses with a ton of media and an absurd amount of cash. Like, what about that doesn't scream major other than the unique format? And so I think if Jeff Spring were on the call with us right now, he would say, yeah, you guys should be having a conversation about how the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship is as big as any of our other big events. It just doesn't quite have that M or that distinction PDGA wise, but obviously it checks a lot of the other boxes. And if you keep having a splash like that in terms of the added cash and the equality with the women and the payout, even though there's half as many, you're talking about, life-changing is maybe a little bit drastic, but you're talking about a massive momentum shift in our disc golf tournaments and what it means to be closing out the season. So you just think about it right now. 5 years from now, we may be saying, yep, and the USDGC just is no longer, what it used to be, because the Pro Tour Championship is so massively anticipated and successful and wealthy. It may be dwarfing the USDGC. We may see the roles reversed. The analogy I have is when the Pro Tour started, everyone said, yeah, the Pro Tour is great. We think it's going to be all right. Yeah, we'll see. But the National Tour is where it's at.
Just a bunch of B tiers.
Fast forward 3, 4, 5 years. And of course, eventually the Pro Tour consumed the National Tour, and the Pro Tour was the preferred tour overall, if we're speaking in generalities. So I'm just saying, if that's the long-term plan and goal, they seem to be on the right path.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anyway, Dana, I'm kind of going through a list. I actually made a list of a couple items to talk about tonight. We've covered most of those, and how about we'll end you with this, and then we can let you cut loose. The 5 spots and the 2 spots. We'll call it the 5 spots for USDGC. It ultimately became 2 spots of earning their way into the Throw Pink. Did you consume any of that? I know we had a show and everything else, or did you maybe just take a look at the names? A fellow Illinois golfer got in. What can you tell us about Ian, if anything?
Cat Daddy, Ian Cat Daddy, yeah, good kid. Super excited for him. I definitely the Monday qualifying and Monday qualifiers, all of like I said, I've tried Monday qualifying and didn't make it in. And back in those days, you could restart. I think I played 2 full rounds and 2 half rounds on Winthrop in a day, and had some good rounds and choked them away. But yeah, I was definitely following the scoring to see who was going to get in. There's there were some really good players trying to get in. Johnny McRae was a person I was keeping my eye on. He's gotten in on Monday night. Their day about Monday qualifying and who's had the best finishes, and I believe Johnny McRae has last year in 2020 he got 10th place coming in off Monday qualifying, and then I believe Anthon maybe was another one. Josh Anthon in 2012 got 3rd place. But yeah, I was keeping an eye on Johnny, wondering what he was going to do, if he's going to get in. He's had just such a wild year with the heart attack, and then winning the major and everything. It would have been interesting to see him get in there. And of course, he's got history at Winthrop. I think the Pro Tour just posted his hole 17 from way back when he couldn't find the island. But anyways, yeah, I was definitely watching it close, and saw that Ian qualified, and there was a 4-way playoff for the last 2 spots, and exciting stuff. And I think, was it +1 was the final tie spot. So I mean, I'm always interested to see what the Monday qualifying is going to shoot, because it gives us a little bit of an indication of what we're looking into the week. Obviously, there wasn't any of the top of the line elite players out there playing, but high stress level round. And yeah, Ian got in. I saw you had an interview with a guy that's got to call off work. I'm trying to think of his name.
Alex Zyrus.
Yeah. Who are our other qualifiers?
At least his employer is a disc golfer. So if there's anyone that understands the significance and the severity and the depth of the request, it sounds like it should be his boss.
Yeah. Who are the rest of the qualifiers? Do you know off the top
we
of
had
your
Joseph Anderson. Ian shot 2 under. Joseph Anderson shot 1 under. Aaron Doyle shot even.
Oh, yeah.
And then the rest were at +1, and it ultimately ended up being Alex and Max Regetneg, I think is what it is.
Max.
Regetneg. Mm-hmm.
And then we had a couple world champions on the women's side. Sarah Cunningham and Paige Shue play their way in. But yeah, the Monday, it's turned into it hasn't turned in. It's always been that high stress, but now so much more with the opportunity to only play 1 round. So every shot counts. So it's going to be interesting to see how those players fare. Typically, it's looking at this list, there's a lot of missed cash if you were a Monday qualifier. Because I mean, you put it all out there on Monday, and get in, and a lot of times you got to play and hang out all day in case there's ties, and it's just a long, stressful day and just round of disc golf. So best of luck to all those Monday players that got in, and we'll see if any of them can claw their way into the cash. And that's a question I've got for you guys. Maybe you can answer it. Historically, back in my playing days, they never posted the payouts until like after the final round started. So you never knew where the money line was going to be. And gosh, I think that was the year Climo lost his cash streak, was at a USDGC, and I was right behind him. I should say we were both a little perturbed at the fact that we were outside of the cash, averaged well above 1,000 and got in and look at the payouts, and they had chopped it way, way, way low. So, but then there's years where they play super deep. So it was always kind of a crapshoot. Do you know if the payouts are going to be posted or are posted ahead of time, especially talking about Pro Tour popular news?
So per PDGA rules, and I'm a little dated on this. I don't run as many tournaments as I used to. And according to the board, I was apparently wrong one other time. But no, per PDGA rules, I think it's a rule that that payouts for a tournament have to be posted prior to the start of a final round. And that could be 1 minute before the start, whatever, but they have to be posted prior to the start of a final round. So if you're playing in a 2-round event, you're supposed to have payouts posted before that second round starts. Obviously 4 rounds, blah, 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 blah. I just went out to the PDGA page where there sometimes is a projected payout button, and they have not filled that out or gotten to that point at least on the PDGA's page. Now, is that somewhere else within the USDGC page? Possibly, but I'm just guessing, we're not going to see that for a few more days. And part of the reason, I feel like, in years past is they kind of arrive at a final payout and a final added cash line based on sometimes how well sales go inside the pro shop on site. If you do 100 grand in sales versus 7 grand, using some extremes, that may affect how much you're going to add into the purse. Maybe you're hoping to add 30, but you have a really great sales week, so you can actually add 40K. Again, I'm just making up some numbers here, but I think it won't be till much later in the week that we'll see payouts. And quite honestly, this goes back to what I was saying before. There's a lot of events that probably are a little gun shy that don't live up to massive payouts by some of our most elite events. And so what you used to maybe beat your chest about and be super excited to brag about, now you might be like just on par or maybe even a little below some of our crazy new standards as the bar continues to raise. And you shouldn't be ashamed of it, but it's no longer the headline of, hey, we're giving away 15 grand. Well, they're giving away 35 grand the next weekend. And so again, just postulating here, but payout definitely, let me put it this way. I'd bet a stack of Frisbees that the payout for this weekend will not supersede the payout for next weekend, and therefore isn't as much of a conversation piece. The title's more important than the payout here this weekend.
Agreed. And then also,
I'd be shocked if first place wasn't at least 15 grand this weekend. I think
sure.
Based on a lot of what the other events are doing, Worlds was a 20 grand payout. Next week's going to be a 35 grand payout. USDGC has always liked to be unique, is one way to put it, but they like to be up in the numbers. So
for sure,
I don't know, and I don't blame them. They're a major; they should be. I think that 15 grand feels like the rightish number. 15 to 20 wouldn't shock me for first place. And
well, let's put it this way, and I actually had to look this up because I didn't know. 2019 was Conrad. He won 12K. 2021, I skipped 2020 because I didn't get there yet. Macbeth did win 20K last year, which was by far.
Oh, did he? Okay.
So yeah, which was by far the largest payout.
The largest. Then I think it's going to be 20 again
at USDGC.
I think it'll be 20
I'm guessing
again.
20 or 25 if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'm going to guess 20 as well. I think they're going to stick about the same thing.
And I wonder, piggybacking on what Terry had said, now with spectator passes, funding payouts or partial payouts going into that, like there's going to be a ton of people that want to come and watch and haven't bought tickets yet. So watching the weather or otherwise, or they're disc golfers and don't plan well, whatever the case may be. So, but whatever it is, I'm going to be here in Illinois watching on the Disc Golf Network, or going to have an earbud in my ear listening and hanging out with the family and doing things. But I got to say, it feels good to get back on with you guys. I appreciate that I got the invite. It feels good. And it feels good to talk to you and see some really familiar names out there in the chat. So,
yeah. Well,
right, before you go, Dana, before you go, give us your quick prediction. Who's taking MPO? Who's taking who's taking USDGC? Who's taking Throw Pink?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Throw Pink, and not going to really step too far outside the box here, but Tatar has just been so dang good, and her forehand has been damn near perfect. It seems this season. But if I was to pick someone outside of Tatar, I'm going with Own. I like how the course sets up for her, and she's hitting 30-something% or more of those circle 2 putts, and I don't know. I love cheering for Own. So I'm looking at Own and Tatar on the FPO side, and man, the men's side. I keep thinking about hole 17 and the pressure and 4 rounds of throwing in bounds on 17, and can a Gannon Burr get through hole 17? He's had a great year, but has he popped off a big one this year? So I was kind of leaning towards a new player, but we got Ricky Wysocki. He's never won at Winthrop. In fact, he's missed cash quite a bit at Winthrop, if memory serves, or maybe just once. I'm not sure. I feel like Ricky has never really excelled at Winthrop. Does he have momentum on his side, and can he get that monkey off his back? But I'm gonna go with, it's either Paul Macbeth or a new player. We'll have a new champion, or Paul Macbeth.
So, I mean, he's on Team Discmania. He's been playing really well this year, but he hasn't done well at majors. No Simon? Is this a course that's set up for Simon without him throwing forehands?
Yeah, Simon. I mean, he's an absolute wizard with the frisbee, with the disc. Like he's got all the skills, and I hope the Simon that shows up is the A game. We see what we saw at Maple Hill last week. I mean, he's got 4 Elite Series wins this year. That would be killer. And I don't know. I thought maybe for a second you were going to say something about Kyle Klein, who last year, went to a playoff. We haven't seen him in the winner's circle this year. So, but has had a really strong year. So maybe he's going to catch his stride out at Winthrop and find some of that magic from last year and cash it in. But yeah, Simon and or Kyle are a couple names that I think about. And then I mentioned Gannon earlier.
Okay.
It feels like it's a matter of time before Gannon pops the big one off. But again, I think about hole 17 and the pressure and the shot, and who's done it, and it's Paul.
We wouldn't be doing our hard hitting journalistic duty with full blown scrutiny and integrity if I didn't ask you about a Team Discmania player that some are saying made a very salty post in Colton Montgomery, and I guess maybe my main question to you is, and I'll just read what he posted on his Instagram. He said, "First time in my professional career, I've missed out on playing the USDGC, but as much as I'm disappointed, I'm not too bummed. This event used to feel prestigious to me, but it just feels like a gimmick nowadays. Best of luck to everyone competing this week." Does he make that same post if he qualifies? well, clearly he'd have to change some of the words because he would be in. But like, how is that tough to read? Thinking like you miss the cut, but then you kind of talk trash about it. But it was an event you were just like literally hours ago trying to get into.
Yeah, I'd say if I was, his social media manager in his ear, I would have said, "Hey, let's maybe think about this post before we throw it out there," because I think he did make a follow up about that afterwards, and probably after catching some heat. But yeah, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best thing to say in my opinion. But if that's how he, maybe that's how he feels. But ultimately, if you're a pro player, if you're on the tour, USDGC, you want to be there. You want to play in it, whether you think it's gimmicky, whether it's got, some crazy things, mozzarella sticks or whatever it is. You want to be there. You want to be in it. That's what you work hard for. You want to, play great every weekend, but the majors, Worlds, United States Disc Golf Championship, I feel for Colton, and maybe he means it, maybe he regrets it. I'm not entirely sure, but if I was whispering in his ear, I would have said, put this in your draft.
Simmer down now.
Come back in an hour.
Yeah, here's what I will say. I totally agree with him in the sense that, his follow-up post essentially said, "Hey, I might be a professional, but I'm still entitled to my own opinions." And that is just clearly part of the crazy world we live in, that, whether you call it cancel culture or whatever, just the idea of like, he can have an opinion. I think we can respect his opinion, agree or disagree with it. I think, like some maybe had accused Ricky of, I think there was a timing to that opinion that didn't sit well. You literally just didn't qualify, and then you're saying this. So I can understand how the timing played into that, maybe more so. He posts that a month ago or in a month, and it's a different story. But the fact that he literally tried to qualify that morning, didn't get in, I think that's probably where it struck a chord. But I do like the idea, though, that our players shouldn't always be explicitly beholden to towing the company line. And it's just a matter of like, where's the right and wrong with all of that? So anyway.
Yeah.
Well, we're hard-hitting journalists, Dana, and you work for Discmania, and he throws Discmania. So we did our job here, damn it.
Yeah. And, I definitely was thinking about Ricky when I read that. And I think you guys had him on after he posted, or after that whole thing. I still need to go back and listen to that, because I don't get it, Rick. But maybe he made some good points when he was on with you guys. But anyways, here we are, dragging on, trying to get me in trouble.
No. I want to say thank you for joining us. We'll talk about Nico, his suspension reduction. We'll talk about that. We've got a few other topics here that I actually wrote down that we can go over, but we'll cut you loose for now. And thanks for joining, as always. And we'll have to see where we can have you. You're always welcome here, Dana. But the history, I think, of some of my first USDGCs, or my early ones, you and I enjoying some of the festivities out here for some of the parties, and just the iconic place that it is, and how special it is to be here. You and I picking up some Paul Macbeth rock threes that Paul didn't really want, but then sold for a bunch of money, and you sold yours for a big profit, and I'm holding on to mine still for much bigger profit. There's a lot of memories here.
For sure, Terry, and yeah, I cherish those, and I do cherish my Tuesday nights over the years on Smashbox. So, good luck on there. Good luck out there at Winthrop. You'll be you're on the ground for men and women, or what's your story?
I'll be having Um, I'm going to challenge myself to come up with the most absurd little snippets and interviews ever when people come off the course. I am tasked with the idea of, as players come off the course, to, at my own volition, grab various MPO players and then have a chat with them. That's going to be all part of the bonus content. And I'm just going to put out a disclaimer right now. It might not be golf related. If there's somebody I haven't seen in a while and it's time for us to have a little catch up session, and they're on the 33rd card anyway, well, it's time for us to talk about we're going to get weird. So
I want you to have a really great interview with somebody off like the 15th card, and then just ask them the most random, like, so what's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie? And just a complete, just the most off topic, weirdest question you can actually ask somebody. Just have a list of them. Have like 15 of those questions and just rattle them off to different players.
Oh, how much can I make them squirm?
That's a great question.
Okay, we're coming up with good ideas here. So anyway, Dana, I'm interviewing MPO players. That's going to be bonus content for everybody that's subscribed to the Disc Golf Network. And then every night, myself and Christine Jennings are going to be heading up the FPO commentary for post-production. So anyone that watches that will get Christine and I. So that's the majority of my assignment. And then every night, founders willing, I'm going to be right here in this seat, and I might be giving you my own personal takes after all of that when I'm officially off everyone else's clock and I punch into the Disc Golf Guy Network. Then we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, whatever
maybe you'll join for one of those. I promise it'll be fun.
Oh, tasty. All right. Well, whatever you're doing, go get them. Johnny V, we know where you'll be. I believe in you and you and the rest of the crew back there. Best of luck and smash these. We'll see you, I don't know, maybe again soon, maybe in a year. Take care.
Good night, Dana.
All right. I love you, buddy. Have a good night, Dynamite. All right.
I'll say this. If Dana's prediction comes true and Own somehow wins, there is going to be tears coming from so many people watching Own win. It's going to feel almost like the Paige Bjerkes worlds. Like, just that would be the greatest story ever told.
I'll reiterate. There is zero reason why she couldn't win.
I agree. At
Just
this course, she keeps it in bounds usually. She's very steady, keeps it straight ahead. She doesn't have a ton of distance.
She makes every freaking putt.
And she makes every freaking putt inside of 50 feet practically. But
yeah,
she just can't seem to hit that number one spot. She's been 2, 3, and 4, feels like. So
going for that number one spot. So real quick with that's a great segue, Johnny, that you didn't plan, nor did I. But I'm going to go over to UDisc. I'm going to check out the win probabilities. And I pulled up FPO because you were just talking about them.
Can I guess?
Kristen Tatar.
Kristen Tatar.
Go ahead. Well,
I think Kristen Tatar is at 54%.
Ooh, that's low.
Damn.
This is UDisc, and these are just probabilities. So they're magical numbers that were calculated, and you got to go throw frisbees. That's why that's all that matters. But they have Kristen Tatar. This is UDisc win probability listed at 64%.
Wow.
Paige Pierce, 6%. Own, 5%. Katrina Allen, 5%. Henna, 4%. Missy Gannon, returning champion, 4%. And so what's crazy to me about that is, excuse me, not only do you have Kristen way up at 64%, there's not a clear-cut second. The next 7 women are all within 4 or 5 percentage points. So I'm not a stat guy, but they're basically saying it's Kristen, or maybe there's a slight chance for anyone else, but we pretty much think it's Kristen. To me, that's incredible. Now I'm going to say there's going to be a very different scenario, I'm guessing, on the MPO side, a couple clicks over. Ooh. Thanks to our friends at UDisc. This is not a paid advertisement for UDisc, but I will be using you all week.
So
win percentage, win probability.
Win probability. Macbeth has to be the favorite.
Macbeth.
I'm guessing
at
24%.
Close, 17%. Wysocki, 14%. Got to get that monkey off his back. Matt Oram, 11%. Gannon Burr, 10%. Dickerson, 7%. Heimberg, 7%. Kyle Klein, your runner-up last year, 3%. Simon Lizotte with just a 3% win probability for this particular event. So, but here again, it's 17, 14, 11, 10, 7. Like, there's not the disparity between first and everyone else like there is on the FPO side, where Kristen's the heavy
I
favorite.
think part of that,
favorite.
and I'm sorry I'm going to say this, but she has such a high win percentage because there's so much of the field that can't win. Like if you look at the field, and again, I say can't, I'm talking less than 1% chance that your middle of the tier FPO field just doesn't win. Whereas if the MPO field, you have your Isaac Robinson that will win. You have your Gannon Burr, your Drew Gibson. Those guys will pop off and win because they have the potential to. Half of the FPO field feels like they're all playing for fourth at best. And they all shift up and down. So I think that's why Tatar has such a high percentage to win. Obviously, and her history this year, where she has not finished off of the podium.
Which is crazy because I saw a stat that showed that the last time that had happened was back in 2015 by Katrina. And then you think, wow, it's been 7 years since that's happened. And
Katrina did it back-to-back years. 2014.
Yeah, and I think it's easy.
It's 2 full years.
Yeah. And I think it's easy though. It's easy almost to dismiss it, but from back then a little bit more so than it is today, where you see so much more, just the division is so much more diverse and it's just so much deeper. And that's not to take away from her dominance and her skillful play all those years, but it's less surprising to see that from back in those years than it is like it is today. Like, to think Katrina didn't finish outside of third this year is honestly I've said it probably 10 times.
Tatar.
I'm sorry. Kristen Tatar hasn't finished outside of third this year. Her closest to that was tying for third at an event, if this is off memory. But it almost sounds disgusting just to say it and to think of like that level of consistency throughout an entire year. And it's not like she played 7 events. I mean, she was in the thick of it at every event. It's just, it's mind blowing.
And you would think, the funny part is you would think, wow, that's quite an accomplishment. Like, that's amazing, which it is. But then you go back to the FPO field and it's happened 8 times or whatever that number is. Like, it's not unique for the FPO field. It's amazing accomplishment, but we've seen it before.
Yeah, but that's a numbers thing. A little bit more of a numbers thing.
Partially. I mean, because when Katrina did it in 2014, 15, there was probably 7. There's 6 elite tier events because that was before the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
And then your majors, which you probably had maybe 3 majors, we'll say. So arguably, and granted, I remember those years, those were phenomenal, but yeah, I don't know. But I agree with Tatar. It's the sheer number that she has done. I mean, there's got to be she has to be in 13 or 14 events where she hasn't finished out of it, because I know she missed some of the Pro Tour being overseas, just a few events, but still amazing. Yeah. An amazing year for Tatar.
Yeah. So let's quickly jump over to, I know I'm waiting on Sarah Nicholson of Throw Pink. I saw her as I was leaving the Innova warehouse today, and she's like, hey, I got this. And I'm like, yeah, send me that note. I've forgotten what that note was. There's some reminder. I know there's going to be something really cool during the opening ceremony tomorrow that I can't spoil, but she had other stuff to remind me of. And so I'm waiting on our favorite Smashy, Sarah Nicholson. And I'll follow that up by saying, and we already touched on it though, there were 2 qualifiers at the last moment. Vanessa Van Dyken, unfortunately, had to withdraw from the Throw Pink event, and she made a long post about that, saying her significant other has had COVID, and she's been sharing space with him, and therefore she felt it was best to withdraw. That allowed for a second competitor to become to earn their way in on Monday qualifying. And as you just mentioned, that was Sarah Cunningham, your 2010 world champion, and then Paige Bjerkes, your 2018 world champion. So kind of cool to see 2 world champions qualify in those positions.
Paige Bjerkes, who is now Paige Shue, but yes.
Did I just call her Bjerkes?
You did.
Or did you before? You did before. So it threw me off.
I think maybe I called her Bjerkes when I was talking about her world championship, which she was Bjerkes then, but she is Paige Shue now.
That's just the founders talking. So
it's not the backwoods yet talking.
Nope. Okay, so real quick, let's. There's two very big conversation pieces left, in my opinion. One being for sure Nico LaCastro. It's been kind of finalized and official that his appeal and his suspension had been reduced. I feel like this was last week, but maybe not. Had been officially announced and reduced from a 9-month suspension down to a 6-month suspension. And that many of you would say, who cares? It's 3 months. What's the difference? The difference is how 2023 starts. And the fact that he won't miss. I think if he would have had that extra 3 months, I think I read somewhere he would have missed like 6 or 9, maybe 6 of the Elite Series events for 2023. So there's like 6 obviously events that he would have been able to get points for and everything else. So the suspension, in a sense, I don't want to say felt more punishing. It was exactly what it was. It was 9 months, but when you looked at the exact timing of it, it definitely carried even more weight than just being suspended for the end of this year because of the way it carried into next year. I don't know if the lesson is, hey, do dumb shit earlier so that it doesn't affect your next year. I don't know what the lesson is there. But
yeah, I mean, if you're going to do something dumb, make sure it's before.
Just plan it.
Like, make sure it's
exactly
before
like
July.
March.
Yeah, April, May, June, somewhere around there, and then.
No.
I think but
the serious takeaway is that it's been reduced by 3 months, which has a massive impact on his play, on his earning potential, on the 2023 season, the 2023 accolades. Like, it has a massive implication to the 2023 season by him having 3 less months on his suspension. So that's, to me, why it is definitely newsworthy.
I think the number that they eventually arrived at, 6 months, feels, because everything is all feels here, because there is no right or wrong. It feels like an appropriate number based on the severity of what he did. He intimidated an official. There was no contact. There was no, there was what, I get it. So, and in today's day and age, when we have such high purses that these players are relying on, and Nico being a unique situation where he doesn't really have a disc sponsor right now, partially due to what he did. So he's not making any money outside of disc golf. So he's very reliant on his tournament winnings. Should that matter? Maybe, maybe not. But I do feel like 6 months feels the right. The issue that I and others have is, and we won't get any answers from the PDGA because they don't really comment on disciplinary action. And I don't blame them. But why was it reduced? Why was it what it was in the first place versus what, the standard default, I think they said originally was supposed to be like 24 months or 12 months or something, which is what the PDGA, or I forget exactly what the numbers are, but there is just a little, it's a little arbitrary, I'll say. And I think it's the right number. I have no problem with 6 months. I feel like, as I said, based on what he did and what he missed out on, it feels like an appropriate punishment. It doesn't feel extreme. It doesn't feel like they let him off lightly. I saw a video.
There's no right or wrong.
There is no right or wrong. It's literally a gut feeling.
I mean, there's just plenty of people that are screaming right now, F
that
you.
He got off light and
he got off too light. And then just as many people screaming F you, he shouldn't have been suspended for more than 10 seconds and everything in between. And again, it's quite subjective. I will read, because I think back to reading Colton. So I'll see if I can quickly paraphrase. This is a very lengthy message. But Nico just today this is maybe why it's more significant.
No, I
I'd like
haven't
to take
seen
a few
his
moments to
post yet.
thank everyone who supports me. I am exploring my options as a free agent into 2023. I'm working very hard behind the scenes to set new goals for myself on and off the course. Thank you to everyone at Clash Disc who's been supportive. They're really nice people that I call friends. After the European Open, and the Clash crew supported me when I went into therapy retreat in Sweden for a couple of weeks. At that time, Clash offered to help cover rescheduling costs of my flight on the way back and stayed in touch in a very positive way. That meant a lot to me. Big thank you to Gateway, everyone else, St. Louis native. This is a very long paragraph. My uncle Dave McCormick, who designed over 100 courses. Thank you to everyone who has sent me encouragement, inspiring messages, and want to continue on my journey and strive for greatness. With all respect to my previous partnerships, I'm taking the time to weigh out my options and consider what's best for me. As a professional, I could be throwing a mixed bag or be exclusive. I love the sport, the people who play, and everything it encompasses. It's clear to me I was born to do this. I really couldn't imagine any other lifestyle. Looking forward to my official return in 2023. So best of luck to him, of course. And we'll see what that means. But as of now, it's been officially determined that, he's been reduced from 9 months to 6 months. And many of you already know, with the nature of the big money skins match taking place in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks from now, down at the Eagles Crossing course, that's not sanctioned. So Nico, along with lots of other high profile players, are signed up to be part of that. So best of luck to him. What is it? 50 grand a first, I think is what they're giving away.
Is it that much? It's amazing.
I think it is. I think it's 50 grand.
How come I wasn't invited to try to win that?
I don't know. I mean, your chances.
Hey,
let's check the UDisc win probability.
It's match play. My chances are
yeah, you could get hot for 18 holes.
It's as good as anybody, as long as I get on the card
where
everyone's pushing.
They're not.
As long as I get on a card where everyone's pushing, and I throw one in from 300 feet, I've got a chance, Terry.
No, you still don't. Because somebody else would be parked when you're throwing in from 300.
That's
and
beside
like,
the
cool,
point.
Good birdie. And they'll be like, yeah, I'm still underneath the basket for birdie, though.
I'd be like, yeah, but I made it push, jerk. Now you're going to lose the next one.
All right.
I'm just here to play spoiler.
And as we get into another very quick but serious subject, also today, the PDGA sent out an email that said,
Terry likes to call these teasers.
Yeah. This basically said that there's another email/survey that should be arriving tomorrow. And funny, here it is. It says on Wednesday, October 5th, which would be tomorrow, they'll receive a link to a survey as part of a research study that has been approved by an institutional review board. With the results from the survey, the researchers hope to learn more about transgender people's participation in sport. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the link. The summary results of the survey may be used to inform PDGA policies or publish in an academic journal. The researchers are not collecting the name or PDGA member number. And this is in bold, your survey responses will be kept strictly confidential, and your name, PDGA member number, email, or IP will never be associated with your individual survey responses. You must be at least 18, and it should take you no more than 6 to 8 minutes to complete it on any device. The link can only be used once and cannot be shared. Participation is voluntary, and you have the right to withdraw your consent or discontinue participation at any time without penalty. So, go do the survey. There's obviously a ton of conversation about this. Go do the survey. It's for men, it's for women, it's for any current PDGA member that is 18 or older. Go do the survey. Now, as I was, the first question I had for the survey is, will this affect policy? And when? And I don't think I've really been answered on that, but
not till next year. Not till next year at soonest.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, at earliest, of course. But it has the results then have the opportunity to help shape and mold. And which is funny to me, shape and mold new policy or new or old or existing policy. What's crazy to me is the amount of people that immediately the first response was, well, are the results going to be published?
I hope they are, but
And
we're not entitled to them.
that's kind of how I feel. What I'm most worried about, and maybe this is just me trying to find, I don't want to say solutions, but what I'm most worried about that here's what I'm predicting that will cause the most quote unquote conflict is, let's just play pretend and say that this survey comes back and it's 55-45 or 50-50 or 60-40 even. Pick your numbers, where there's not a definitive overarching, like resounding response from any one position.
60-40 either way is pretty heavy.
I don't. I think 70-30 is. I think 75-25 is. 60-40 to me is,
it's close.
And again, maybe it depends on the participation. But the point is, if it comes back 90%, wish X and 10% wish Y, I feel like at that point, our membership base has spoken. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that, like, we're wiping our hands clear of any, of anything else? No, but at least the opinions have spoken loudly, whatever, however it falls. And I cannot say this enough. I want people to participate in the survey. I don't care where you stand on the topic. I know there's very impassioned people on every side of this. And I just want people to participate. And I hope it blows away the results that we saw from the previous election, the one that just took place. Because immediately when the election happened, some people said, well, that was really a referendum on this topic or that, or, this kind of, tested the waters. This survey is exclusively geared toward our overarching conversation about transgender participation within disc golf. And I believe that it's going to be broken down to some degree, even though it's going to be anonymous. It's going to be broken down of, do you play in division blank? Do you play professionally? Do you play on the tour or a tour or whatever?
There are going to be lots of ways to skew this data, regardless of how I think you were just hinting at, because if they take a poll as to what division does John Van Deursen play? I play MPO. And how do you feel about transgender athletes? Well, I feel this way. Okay. Now you take Paige Pierce. You play in FPO. How do you feel about it? Will it matter if FPO, like if you can break it down and skew it where FPO emphatically says, I'm cool with this, and then you have a large portion of the membership base that says, I'm not cool with this, or vice versa. If FPO says, we're not cool with this, but they're only 6% of or 7 or 8% of our membership base, and a majority of people say, no, we are totally cool with this. There's a lot of ways we're going to be able to look at this data and skew it to the way you probably want to see it. It just depends on how it's going to be perceived by the PDGA. Does it matter if you're an FPO touring player versus an FPO local regional player? There are a lot of things, because this isn't an issue that is just FPO. There are so many people, and I want to say this right now, there are so many people right now that I see on the internet that just say, well, I'm an MPO player, I shouldn't have a say in this. No, wrong. 100% wrong. Go take the survey, because I've said this before on the podcast, this is a PDGA issue. This is not just an FPO issue. This is not just a Pro Tour issue. Because what we do will reflect how the PDGA looks to the public. Either direction. If we go towards the side of we'll just say acceptance of transgender athletes in FPO if we go towards the sides of exclusion. And I know even putting it in those two words makes it feel like I've already decided, or I have a bias, and I do, and everyone here knows it, which is fine. But regardless of how we go, is going to look. We already saw that one article that came out about Natalie Ryan last week, and there will be more depending on what the results, not the results of this survey, but the results of what the PDGA decides to do. So this isn't just an MP or an FPO issue. This is a PDGA issue. Please, pretty please, go out and make your voice heard. That's primarily what I want. And I know Nova's on the board here saying that polls for acceptance of people always lag behind laws and policy, and she's 100% right. She quotes the 90s with interracial marriage, or you could even look at gay marriage. Those numbers were skewed for years, and there's still people that don't accept it. So I agree with you, Nova, and I think that in this instance particularly, I don't know, though. I just hope that everybody, like you said, everybody goes out and makes their voice heard, and I am very interested to see what the results will end up being.
I will continue to beat that drum, just like I did with, with just overall voting within the PDGA board, or really any time there's a democratic process of some degree. Now, some people are already challenging and saying, though, regardless of how this poll comes back, is that how we should be dictating policy? And my response personally is, well, that kind of gives us a little bit of the temperature of the room, or the temperature of the water, whatever analogy or cliche is out there. It at least does at this point in time. If 95% of our voting body that votes in this poll or takes these results, if 95% of people feel one particular way, whatever way that is, as a club, as a I think we're a 501c like 4, we're not a 3 or C9 or whatever we are. We're a sporting organization. We are a membership-based club of sorts. I'm okay with us at least dictating our policy based on those types of responses, whatever that might be. That's not to say it can't change. I mean, without getting too political, clearly all these years of precedent with Roe v. Wade or whatever have recently been overturned. And whatever policy that gets made with regard to our transgender athletes,
nothing's permanent.
Nothing's permanent. In 20 years, whatever's decided could be absolutely flipped on its head. But if right now the temperature of the room states blank, then, and it's a resounding, especially if it's resounding, well, then maybe we go that way. I don't know, but I just can't say it enough. I do want to repeat, though, this is not a PDGA. This is so crucial. This is not a PDGA assembled survey and research. This is done by, I have it written down somewhere. This is done by smarter people at doing actual research, a third party. The PDGA will take the results and take the submissions and whatnot and use it to then influence and or be part of it. But this is not a PDGA funded, exclusively funded and or assembled research project. And I think that is crucial because everyone could say there's going to be a particular bias or slant to it. There's a ton of factors that go into having a research project done of this nature, and it has to check like 50 boxes, and this is going to do just that.
And
those to me are
the extent of this.
Crucial.
We don't know if it's just PDGA. They might be asking ultimate players. They might be asking, like, this particular survey and result, it might be bigger than just the PDGA. There could be, spike ball or whatever. There could be looking at a lot of niche sports. I don't know. I don't know if it's just if the PDGA just did this survey on their own for the research. It felt like the research paper, so to speak, was something bigger than just PDGA. But I think
it's specific to disc golf. No,
is it specific? Okay.
It is, and I think
Okay,
that's part of the argument that's happening right now.
Then I take that back.
And I very much disagree with Dixon Jowers, who happens to be right in his post, happens to be right in front of me, which kind of frustrated me. He posted earlier today and said, so the IOC made their changes in November of 2021. The PDGA began working on this in January of 2022. Now, in October, they are sending out a survey. The wheels of progress are blindingly fast. I think he's being sarcastic there, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
For
And to that point, I'll say this to anyone. How many effing surveys, how many effing studies do you think we have in that are disc golf specific to our transgender athletes? I'm going to guess there's effing 0 of them. So I get it that everybody, this is a hot item and everybody's really worked up about it. And I understand that. But at the same time, do you think just like multi-million-dollar studies just appear out of nowhere? Like, it really frustrates me that someone as smart as Dixon Jowers would have such a cocky statement about it when he should understand, because I know he's a smart guy, he should understand that no matter where you fall on this issue, something like this doesn't just happen overnight. And even if we do have a study in disc golf, exactly. And
I understand,
as others would say,
it's a very public issue right now. I get that. And I don't want it to be rushed. And honestly, I think the survey is coming at a perfect time. I wouldn't want this survey to come out in June, because then you have 4 months of people screaming at the PDGA, or 5 months or 6 months, like, where are the results of our survey? And if the results come back, then you have got people, let's just say they come back in August, then you've got people screaming about how changing the policy. Like, no, it's the middle of the season. I would rather this time do it in the off season. Let's take care of it. We can address it in the off season. We don't have to make any weird mid-season changes, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. My question is, and I'm glad they're doing the survey, but how different of a survey, I want everyone to think about this, and yes, this might be me trying to skew the results. What if we change our policy and Barbasol says, cool, see ya. We're not interested in that type of advertising. We're not interested. Like, are we, which is why I say partially this is a PDGA issue and not just an FPO, MPO issue. We need to look at how we're perceived. We need to kind of go where the winds blow if we're looking at getting bigger sponsorship. Does Johnsonville Brat, does Guarantee Rate Mortgage, if we are looked at as an, we'll just say, exclusionary sport, does that change how major sponsors look at us? And should we care about that? I mean, because I'll tell you what, if you tell the players your Pro Tour finale is going to be a $302,000 purse, or it can be a $200,000 purse, I'll tell you how many of them are going to vote. Yeah. Right away. And granted, that's a made up scenario that I have no idea what the right answer is. I'm just saying, like, we do need to look at how the PDGA looks publicly, because that and the DGPT, because they are hand in hand right now. They're walking down the aisle with together. We'll say they're walking down the aisle together, because if the PDGA makes a decision, there's a very good chance the DGPT is going to follow those particular rule sets. I don't foresee there being a scenario where the PDGA, as much as I would love it, if the PDGA changes, I don't think the DGPT is going to go against that. But I don't know.
Yeah, not likely.
Not likely.
Exactly.
So anyway, we can move on from this subject.
At any rate,
we have beat it to death for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not worth arguing with people. I'm not. It's so funny that people want to scream about it who think I'm necessarily arguing for or against them. That's totally fine if you want to continue to bark in the chat. My takeaway here is vote and respond to this survey. I know plenty of people have very loud voices about a lot of things, myself included. So just go fill out the survey. Let's see what the survey comes back, and then go from there. And I know there's even some objection to that, which is understandable. Some people have said to me, hey, even if the survey came back 99% in favor of keeping the policy the way it is, some would still say, well, I don't care. I still feel this way about it. And that's not how we should necessarily create policy based on public opinion. I understand that argument as well. I am just most interested in what the survey does come back as, because if the board member vote, some were saying, was very much about this one issue. If you just looked at that one issue and the board member, the PDGA board of directors votes, you would think that it wasn't as much of an issue as some people say it is. Now, this survey may say the exact opposite. I don't know. I just want you to fill out the survey to your heart's content, whatever that is. I don't care what your opinion is. I just want you to fill out the survey. And so then they can analyze. And again, let's make this very clear. These are professionals that are doing research, which is more than like 99.9% of us have ever done.
Terry, I read a Facebook article. I know it all.
Okay, well, except for you, then you're an effing genius. But everyone else, anyway, my point is, please just fill out the survey. That's what I'm asking of you. You can get all mad at me if you want for no good reason, but I'm just telling you, fill out the survey. I'll fill it out. Everybody should fill it out. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what is said there. There's still no promises. What I worry about the most is the survey comes back and it's 50-50, because then what do?
Then we
you
rely
literally
on...
have 50% of the membership being really pissed off and 50% of the membership being content. That's my only worry. And we
rely on our elected officials to do what we just have to, at that point, we have to rely on our elected officials, like it or not, regardless of how they're going to vote. That's just how it works. And we're going to have to rely on them no matter what, whether it's 50-50 or 70-30. We have to rely on them. So,
correct.
Yeah. But
and I don't believe I'm about to say this, but I will.
I do, because you say stupid things sometimes.
That's fine. This isn't stupid. And this is it's borderline embarrassing. I even am going to say it. Ella Hansen is not a transgender athlete. So if you fucking post that,
do you know why people think that?
Because she has short hair and she throws far.
No, not just that. Terry, I swear, and I know this sounds very strange. If you do a Google search for Ella Hansen trans, and I did this, and I shoved it. I swear to God, Terry, there is an Ella Hansen on LinkedIn who supports trans for whatever reason. Because I've seen this screenshot. Google took every Ella Hansen from LinkedIn and gave them the same description in their link. And I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know. It looks like it. I'll have to grab my screenshot, because I screenshotted. There were 4 LinkedIns for Ella Hansen that all had the exact same description. They took one Ella Hansen and gave a description. So you see people copying and pasting this Google search, like, no, look, it was on her LinkedIn. I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Cool. Check your fucking research department, because you're wrong.
So that is one of the reasons why that rumor is being spread. I took a screenshot. I posted on Dixon's page. And at one point showing, hey, look, here are all the people, here are all of the ones that all say Ella Hansen with the same description. It's a Google indexing issue. Please stop spreading this.
Cool. So what is this
false
proof?
information?
Google's not always right. Maybe you should shut the F up. Like,
I'm with you.
We could
I'm just
go on
saying
and on.
That is one of the weird things that somebody found somewhere and decided to share, because the link did go to Ella's actual LinkedIn page, but then if you look at all the details in her LinkedIn page, it was all different versus what the Google description, the short description was. So I'm just saying, if you see that out there, people, because I've seen people post it like it's proof for some reason. It's not.
What?
Ignore it.
You're telling me the
garbage.
internet's not always right? It's not always telling the truth, or it misguided you?
And frankly, it's none of our fucking business.
Exactly. That's why I
But
say I'm embarrassed to even say it,
I know.
because it's
So
not
just
my business.
that
It's not her
that
business.
is
Like,
yeah, that is
just,
what that is one of the reasons why people are so adamantly saying that. So just know that if you do see that, it's bullshit. That's it.
I just, it's so pathetic that it has to be stated, or seemingly has to be stated, or that people just immediately feel like that's where they should go with the conversation, because Ella threw 552 feet yesterday, and you're
Oh, here.
immediately going to somehow degrade her in any capacity or lob out incorrect insults. And I'm just sick of it. And this goes back to point number one, which is,
Here.
let's just like be nicer to these people, to
Everybody.
literally everyone. Like, let's just be nicer, period. Like,
I'm showing it on the broadcast because I dug up the screenshot that I had. Last time I checked, she wasn't an IT DevOps. She wasn't a journalist, and she's not impact investing analyst intern. So there is the exact description from everybody, but people are clipping only the top one and claiming it as some sort of truth. So that's out there. We're done. We don't need to talk about it anymore.
all right, moving on. So let's talk trash about. No, I'm just kidding.
Now who can we talk trash about?
No, I really don't have anything else other than the woman I would like to talk a little bit of trash about.
Who is it?
I don't know her, and she was having a bad day, maybe, or maybe it's just her MO. This is maybe after show fodder, but I ran into the Walmart right next to the course yesterday.
This is after show fodder. I can feel it already.
But I did come back out, and the lady, you know all the memes and the jokes about like people who do or don't return carts, like, or put carts back in their stanchions or whatever. This lady put some stuff in her car, then put her cart up on like the island so it wouldn't maybe go into other cars, and then gets into her car and then takes off her Walmart smock. And I'm like, wait a minute, you work here, you jerk. You literally just left a cart in the parking lot for one of your coworkers. God bless her. She maybe had a bad day and had somewhere to be. Her actions said otherwise, or her urgency. And I do not hate her, but I definitely had my head in my hands thinking, what did I just see?
I just take my cart and push it towards another car and drive away. I hope there's somebody in there to stop it. I don't know.
Anyway.
Isn't it a game where you see how far away you can get from like the cart return and you just shove it and hope it goes straight? You don't play that
game? I don't know. Yeah, Alan, let's suspend her from the PDGA. I just, and you see people not return carts, and you're, whatever. But she literally was wearing her Walmart smock still. And I just thought, like, you work here. Oh, and maybe what drove me crazy is she was parked closest to the store. There was no parking spot closer to the store than hers, which tells me she was probably first in there, maybe at 6 a.m. Mm-hmm. God bless her for being an early riser.
I totally understand.
She takes the closest spot to the door.
You either have to walk all the way back to the store, or you have to walk further into the parking lot to put your cart away.
She's closest to the store.
But you still have to turn around and walk 50 feet.
God bless her. God bless her. I takes all kinds.
It does.
Again, let's talk policy over person. I wish there was a policy that said she had to pay $1 more next time she went into Walmart. I don't know. All right, guys, let's close it out. We're going to take a quick commercial break by our friends at Founders. And we're going to thank Dana Vici. This one went a little off the rails quick tonight. But thanks to Dana for joining us, talking a little bit about USDGC, the Throw Pink. Also, please go out, vote. And I hate saying vote. Fill out the survey. Go out and fill out the survey.
That survey is supposed to be in your email in the next day or two. It's supposed to
drop tomorrow.
Yep.
Yes. I heard as early as tomorrow. So get out there and let your voice
check your spam filters too, people.
Check your spam filters, all that good stuff. The survey is being conducted by a team of university researchers working with the PDGA Medical Committee. They are not asking for your name or PDGA number, as we discussed, and your individual responses will be kept strictly confidential. So,
Can I put my stuff in there
and
anyway?
a summary of the results may be helpful in informing policy. Those are some talking points for you. All right, guys, USDGC Throw Pink Week, closing out the tour, looking into 2023. Big week next week for Barbasol. Big week this week for USDGC and the folks at Innova and the PDGA. Another major, and our friends at Throw Pink. Looking forward to absolutely all of it. We'll close out the regular show. We'll come back in the after show and have some more silliness for you. For Dynamite, for Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smash Box.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 423's After Show. Here we are, Johnny. USDGC week, Throw Pink week.
I'm having a hard.
Rock Hill.
I think
Rock
I said
Thrill.
Rock Thrill.
as the
I think I
kids
said
would
the same
say.
thing about Worlds, that I'm just having a hard time getting excited.
Okay, well, I feel differently. I'm on site.
You're on site. I think I would feel
I'm
differently if I
fired
were on site.
up.
I'm sure once the event gets running and the action starts heating up, I'll probably get excited. But I don't know. Right now, I'm meh.
All right.
So,
well,
we'll get there.
Since
We'll
Johnny's
get
a
there.
regular old stick in the mud, here we are. This is the after show where Johnny doesn't give a shit about anything and we just ramble.
Nothing.
No, we're here in the after show. This is a great opportunity for us to pay more attention to what's being said on the YouTube chat as well as the Facebook chat. If there's something you want to ask us or a conversation you'd like us to have or react to, feel free to shoot it to us over there in the chat. Right off the bat, I'm going to thank our friends at Ace Run Productions. He says, we were the only super chat.
Terry just locked up. We were the only super chat. That's like winning a flex start with no one else in your division. We'll take it. Ace Run Production, thank you for your super chat earlier today. I know I said it on the chat. I do appreciate it. Terry does too. I mean, he'll never say it because he's locked up, basically. His system just locked up, so he's never going to say it. But we do appreciate all the super chats. What else do we have going on? Obviously, we have USDGC week. Is there anything? I'm going to come out and say it right now, just based on the data from the play-in events, that I think hole 3, I know Terry was talking to Jonathan Poole about it, and it's a cool hole in concept, but I don't think there's really going to be many birdies on it. So, is that a good hole? If a hole isn't birdied at all, is it a good hole? Or is it just parred wrong? Because it looks like a good hole, but maybe the par should be a par 5. I have to see the numbers on what comes up.
because there was not a single birdie on it for the entire play-in event. And granted, you have, just not the caliber of players that we have for USDGC playing it, but there's some pretty gosh darn good players out there, that a lot of over 1,000 rated players that just didn't get that one. So I'm up in the air on hole 3, the new 3 to 4. I'm right now I'm leaning towards don't like it. So, but we'll find out. We will find out. I Love Disc Golf says, if you want a score separator, yeah, that isn't it. Not necessarily. I mean, we could just see, it could just be badly parred. A bad number. We could see, a handful of 4s, let's say 20% 4s, 40% 5s, 20% 6s, and, 10% 7s. It could have a pretty decent range, but if we're not seeing any birdies, I'm just wondering if it's poorly numbered, if it should be a par 5 instead of a par 4. But I won't know until we get at least a day's worth of data off of that particular hole. So I messaged Terry and said dead, and he's still locked up. So we're gonna see. He's gonna come back with some dumb excuse, and like maybe his laptop died because he forgot to plug it in, or maybe his camera died. If his camera died, though, we'd probably still hear him. That's too bad. Too bad, Terry, that he's stuck. At least he's not, like, he's stuck right over there, but at least he's not stuck with, like, a dumb face. It's just him looking at the his monitor. He probably spilled his beer on his laptop is probably what happened. Yep, that's what Alan Risley just said. He just probably spilled a beer. Yeah, well, what else is going on out there? If we look at the PDGA, let's look at the PDGA. Go to the news. I've been watching, before I get to there, catching up on Star Trek. I'm way behind. I've not watched any of the newest season of Discovery. I'm now caught up with Lower Decks, which is the animated. Very funny. I have not watched any of Picard. And Strange New Worlds I haven't even touched yet. I'm way behind. So I signed up for the CBS Plus through my Amazon account. And I'm going to try to burn through those in the next month. So I only have to pay for 1 month. And then I'll be all caught up on my Star Trek. I'm caught up on She-Hulk, though. Very funny. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. What else on the PDGA? If we're looking at announcements, a bunch of new discs being approved. The Be Wild and Free putter from Crown Me Sunny Sporting Company Limited. Really? That's the name of the putter? The Be Wild and Free? Okay. Well, it looks like we have movement on the other side of the screen. Terry, did you spill a beer? Did you spill a beer on your laptop?
No, here's what I think happened.
Okay, great. Give me your tech breakdown.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I have an IT degree.
You do.
One of 2 degrees. What I believe happened is it's been exactly 24 hours since last connecting to the internet here at the hotel. And then it just, because it showed me connected, but I hit refresh, nothing happened. I'm sitting here wondering what's going on. I'm in the middle of an incredible story, obviously. And then all of a sudden there was just nothing there. And I'm doing all these things. And then I disconnected and reconnected, and instantly we're back.
It's probably just like their system probably only holds IP addresses for 24 hours when you log in. And so at 24 hours, it gives up, it like clears out your IP address and forces you to reconnect. So I'm guessing that's what it was.
Yeah. Okay. Where did you lose me? On what incredible insight?
I don't know. I stopped paying attention like most things. What were you saying?
No, I was having a great story time with myself. No, what I was basically saying is, the long and short of it is, Tim had asked about how many discs that I bought, and some people that followed along on Instagram today just noticed that one of my favorite components of being at the USDGC, whether it was as a player or a sponsored Innova player or as a vendor or whatever, is the opportunity to go to the USDGC East Coast, East Flying Disc East, whatever, Innova East, and being able to hand pick discs. And when it was all said and done, nothing too crazy today. I picked out a bunch of stock discs that will either be on my website or will be good trade bait if they were white and are great for some dyer friends of mine. But I don't know. I picked out about 200 discs, and
Just
yeah,
200.
it doesn't get old. The problem is I keep picking discs that I love that may or may not be
Valuable.
big sellers for other people. So when I picked out a stack of like 16 KC AVRs, I'm selfishly thinking, man, I really like these. The problem is it'll take me about 40 or 60 years to go through another 16 KC AVRs. But at least I know I have some good looking KC AVRs.
Those
and
discs
maybe I'll let a few go.
Will rot before you wear them out. You will
Exactly.
You will go into your storage and be like, "Ooh, I need one," and you'll pick it up, and much like the Viper that Simon broke or whatever, the Whippet,
Yeah.
it'll just crack, and you'll be like, "Oh no!" And you'll be 50 or 60 years old, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's so sad. I'm gonna have to go into the other 50 that I have in this box."
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like usually this is the time of year where I specifically seek out like roughly 5 to 10 pro race. It's one of my favorite drivers. And then I'll occasionally seek out uniquely colored KC AVRs. The problem is it takes me about 2 to 5 years to actually retire a pro wraith. So if I pick up 5 every year, but I only go through one every 5 years, I have a surplus. And yeah, that's just part of the struggles that I have here. Now, good news for me is they were seemingly out of pro wraiths. They had a bunch of other pro discs, but no pro wraiths. So this year I didn't pick up any beautifully colored pro wraiths. So,
And you don't need any.
I do not. Terry, I do. This is a funny question. If you had a signature disc, who would make it and what would it be? They're somewhat very similar in nature, and so
Like,
I think.
Are you saying it has to be a current disc or any disc?
Yeah, well, let's just say it's a current disc. The no-brainer answers would either be Discraft making me an old Comet, or Innova making me a 90s version Ontario Rock. And it doesn't have to be 90s version, but an Ontario Rock. Those two discs, coincidentally, they're not 100% interchangeable, but they are very, very similar in their flight characteristics. Both somewhat understable, both have a lot of glide, and both are used for finesse touch shots. So a Comet and or an Ontario Rock.
But let's assume that, because they don't make any more Ontario Rocks, I don't believe, do they?
No.
And
I've got them all.
They're not making old Comets because they're old.
No, the closest thing to an old Comet right now that I love the feel of
is your Jawbreaker ones.
Is the Jawbreaker ones. The problem is some of those are insanely understable.
Yeah.
But
if you had to pick a current disc, what do you think it would be? Like,
I would say typically like a Pro Wraith, which I don't think anybody throws except for me. Same thing. I keep.
That's why they're always at this. That's why they're always at the thing. They just have a shelf for Terry. Like nobody's buying these, Terry. Please take them.
But I'm not going to lie. The Kristen Tatar Graces also fly great. I was flying. I was throwing. I was throwing those quite a bit over when I was in Sweden, and they've made me a believer in throwing those. I don't throw them anywhere nearly as well as she does. I only dream of that someday, but I really do like how they fly. So
Alan Risley says they are still making Ontario Rocks very infrequently, which is bad for you, Terry, because that means there's more you need to buy.
No, because I don't buy any of the new remakes. Like, I only care about the ones that were produced in the 90s that have a real crayon type smell to them with a really unique custom stamp or a Big Bird stamp or whatever. If it was the remakes, which they started doing in 2005, 6, and 7, I don't care about any of those. There's millions of those around. They don't fly the same, and B, it's a nostalgia thing. So I only care about the 90s Ontario Rocks, which were like 94 to 97 or 98. And I think I have the largest collection in the world, but I just keep saying that. So it's got to be true.
I'm guessing it's probably true.
but I think it is true also.
If there's a disc that I care about, I mean, I still like the Z Buzzes. I throw those. Even I prefer the older ones that I have in my bag, but I really do like the Z Buzz. I don't think. Hold on one second.
Terry is going
Sorry.
to need his own warehouse.
I just blocked somebody from our YouTube page permanently.
Oh, come on.
Sorry. You don't have to worry about
Were
it
they
anymore.
were they being meanie heads?
They were. So, and so it'd be a Z Buzz probably for me, but there was a disc. So when I went down to Texas and played in a league one night, I didn't have any discs with me because I didn't expect to have the night free. And I picked up a Method and Sensei, I think, a mid-range and a putter. And so some gentleman let me borrow a driver. I think it was a Dynamic Discs Escape. That thing flew so far. It flew further than my Trespass, which I like. It flew further than my Undertaker that I like. It just got up and flipped and had the most beautiful big S-curve for me. I don't throw, like, I'm not a big thrower by any means, but I pumped that thing out like 420 feet because there was a hole that I parked. I actually went deep. It was like a 400-foot hole, and I was like 20 feet deep on it. Flat ground. And I looked at the guy. I was like, okay, cool. I'll be using that for quite a bit this round when I needed it. So I think it's the Escape. I really like that one, and I want to pick up some and try them out for really big drives. So.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty impressionable. So when I was brought to Sweden, and then I had the opportunity to hang out at the Latitude 64 factory for a couple of days, and they just were like, here, try this, try this, try this. There's a lot of discs that I really fell in love with, and some people may say, well, don't you throw discs all the time or try to, and it's like, no, I don't, and it's largely because I rarely play golf, and when I do. I'm not in a position at my age, and it's not just because I'm 44, but I'm just in my stage in my career where I care about really improving my disc golf game for the handful of rounds I play a year. And so I don't actively seek out new discs. I just, quite frankly, don't. I hardly care. But then when I was handed a few of these discs because I had no other discs, and then I went out and played this iconic course with one of the founders of Latitude, obviously I learned a few things, and it's no joke. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed a number of the molds that I had never otherwise thrown. And I've become quite a fan of some of those, and some of those will go into my bag for the few times I play golf.
It's one of the things I do miss, and I'm hoping I'll have more time next year to play a little bit more, but going to like getting discs that I don't know what they are or what they do. That's what I did with the Undertaker. I grabbed one because it was, I think we were at Stevens Point the last time I was there, and it was just like, I need a disc. I know what some of these do, but do I really need another Comet? Do I really need another Buzz? And I just like to grab a new disc, and I think I grabbed the Undertaker. I would like to try the Grace. I would like to try something like I've heard really great things about the River. We've got a local guy here who throws it,
which I throw now
and crushes it. Andrew Pecunia just throws that thing a mile. And there are so many discs I would just like to be able to use, go to an event and buy a couple new discs every once in a while. I don't need, I've got lots and lots of discs looking right at me, and I don't need any more.
Yeah, Ace Run says bolts are bombers too. I've become a fan of the Bolt. I was given an Orbit Bolt, and I love it. And I threw a Ballista for the first time, and I threw a River, which has become a great disc. And
I've thrown all those on Disc Golf Valley, but not in real life.
Not quite the same. I met the guys designing Disc Golf Valley.
That's awesome.
Literally the guys at the computers working on Disc Golf Valley. Like, I met them as well. I would
have asked them to sneak you into a course, like on the sideline, just have like a little pixelated you there with a microphone. And so when people can throw it, they just like, and then every once in a while it just says, Terry, save my disc, if they throw it out of bounds.
If I go back to Sweden, that would be my first request.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was an incredible time. But lots of great discs that I then was introduced to. And I know sometimes somebody gives me a hard time, like, oh, you're always opening this name brand or that name brand. As a vendor, I'm just opening boxes that I get and posting on my Instagram. And I'll use Discmania as an example. They've really ramped up their popularity and their sellability, and therefore I'm getting more discs from them, and I'm often then posting about them. And I feel like that's true of any manufacturer. If you're dying for me to, showcase or open up some discs or whatever, and send me a package, let me know. I'm more than happy to do so. So I'm saying I'm cheap and I can be bought. I think that's what I'm trying to say here.
We all are.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Terry, I shot my best rated round, 1035, at 49 years young. Get back at it, man. Nice work. 1035 is obviously a solid round. I don't prioritize playing golf, nor does Johnny, for instance. It's something that's been put on a back burner for a number of years now as we've been pursuing all these media endeavors.
Oh, I'm getting back on tour.
Don't have opportunities to go. I mean, I would follow you because we hear how many people want to follow a Masters tour. So if you go on tour, I feel like I should pay someone to be a full-time cameraman for just you.
You're assuming I'm going to the Masters tour, Terry? I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm starting Silver Series and I'm working my way up.
Advanced Masters tour.
That is more likely than a Masters tour for me. The Advanced Masters tour.
Okay. Yes. Quadzilla said, Terry, how are sales? I'm not sure of what.
Probably of discs that you're selling. Yeah, Frisbees.
They're all right. The ones I want to let go of. I have a hard
problem.
I always get discs and then set them aside. Discmania, big sponsor of Smashbox. Quite the contrary. They're one of the few companies to never give us anything. So, no, not a sponsor of us. Terry, you can make some money with that venture. Good call. And then I know the glitch has become a very much a talking point. We saw, of course, plenty of commercials, I think, for it at the MVP Open as one of their new discs over there at MVP. What's crazy, and I'll just say this very generically, is Johnny V and I are very much cut from an old school cloth that was primarily, this is Wisconsin based, it was primarily Innova, where Barry Schultz threw Innova. You had a little bit of Discraft Minnesota influence of your Timmy Gills and a few other players. That was even pre-Kale. Yes, there was life before those cute dimples that Kale brought to the game. And it was primarily Innova and a little bit of Discraft in Wisconsin.
Thanks, Jack and Jane Smith.
And Gateway made putters, made wizards. That was the landscape for a long time within Wisconsin disc golf.
They made the Saber as well, which I have somewhere.
Yeah. Anyway,
you want to murder somebody?
We're talking late 90s, late 90s. And then, of course, things continue to expand, and you saw their companies develop, and Millennium and some of these other ones, and then obviously eventually Vibram, blah, 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 blah. But that is the era in which Johnny V and I were entered into the game. Oh, don't forget the DGA series, which were also Discraft, primarily Discraft molded discs that were then
rebranded,
DGA named. So just to put a little more context in it for you as to why we're talking about.
I mean, if you think about it, we kind of stopped playing regularly in like 2013-ish. Like, I know we were still doing a little bit here, 2013, 2014-ish. There were so many like brands that weren't even around. Like DD didn't. They just did their 10-year disc. They had just started making discs, and I remember. And I've told this story before. I would go to the park where you were selling discs legally with a
permit,
with a permit, of course. And you had like these MVP discs, and I looked at them and I thought they were jokes because they had like these funky rims, and they were all usually like dyed colors or red or whatever. And I was just like, who would throw this? Like, and you had told me, you're like, no, they're crazy popular. Like, I can't keep them in. People that have like a dedicated following. It's small, but like whenever I get them, they're sold. And I was like, huh, all right, whatever. And then within 2 to 3 years, they were a legit. I mean, they were a legit company then, but they were legitimately a good size company selling regular discs, not just like this little niche thing for us. So we came after so many of the manufacturers, which is why I was very happy when our friends like EMAC and they got in with DD, because it helped me in general become a little bit more familiar with those brands, the guys that we followed, like with Stevie Rico and Legacy, learning those brands, like getting a Ghost and a Rival and the
Rampage
Icon,
and Cannons.
I was gonna say the Icon Rampage, the Icon Cannon. Like those are that's why I threw those, because our friends made them. not because I wanted to experiment with different plastic. I was really happy with my primarily Innova drivers and Discraft mid ranges. But now, it's spread out a little bit more. I've spread out a little bit more. I've got a little bit more in my bag.
Yeah, let's face it. We don't have a specific brand loyalty, because quite frankly, we don't need to. But and we work with so many of these companies. I mean, there's some companies within disc golf that are amazing to work with, and some that kind of suck. And that may or may not factor into whether you throw their plastic after the in a casual round or not, or just accessibility to it, or there's just a lot of factors I think that can go into it. But it's been a pretty funny journey throughout all these years. Or like someone says on the board, Vibram. I mean, I got to tour the Vibram factory with Steve Dodge, and they literally let me film how a disc was made, like step by step. And it's like a 2.5-minute video now on my YouTube channel from forever ago. I mean, what a cool opportunity, and
you should re-release that as a TikTok.
Yeah, that's a damn good idea, Johnny. You're thinking now.
I am.
All right. Reading down the
I get
page.
all the proceeds.
Yes, it was. In fact, Timmy Gill was on the ESPN's Cold Pizza. That was an unintended trivia question out there, but that's what he was on. I have that on maybe a VHS, probably an actual digital file somewhere. I have that for sure.
It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Discmania never sponsored Smashbox ever. Yes, Carney Shell. You can copy and paste that if you'd like. They never have. Sky Chaser, Adidas, Suck Simon, but I don't know where you're going with that. That's random. Star Mako, still the best disc. Okay, that's your opinion, Bean. I will say, I remember when the Star Mako came out, I was running a winter-based event, and I had the Proto Stars, and then it was the Cold Turkey. They let me stamp a very early run of Star Makos with a custom stamp. And it was often been very, very good to me in that, like, oh, hey, this new disc came out and you're running an event in like 3 weeks. Yeah, let's just stamp this new disc. You'll be the first person in the country to have this brand new disc that has a custom stamp on it. That's happened to me more times than than they probably want to admit, because they're so generous to me. And I remember the Star Mako came out when I was running a Cold Turkey, and I still have some, and they are very much still money. They were incredible discs, and I think there still are a great disc to this day.
It's a disc I never threw, was the Mako. I never got a hand on one, so it never really made it my bag. I was primarily a Discraft mid-range guy. I had Buzzes, Comets, and for a while Wasps, but then Zones took over the Wasp position. So, and before that, MRX and MRV. But
the Star J, I did pick up some new J's, Star and Champion. Some really, again, I will say part of the coolest, some of the coolest part of being here is there might be 300. I'm just gonna make up a number. 300 max weight Star J's that are in the factory today. 300 of them. And there's 3 boxes at 100 disc each. Let's say 178 to 180 or whatever. It's if you take the time to dig through those 3 100 count boxes to find the coolest looking ones, whether it's a transitional or smoky or has a cool design. Like, that's what my day consists of today, is you find a disc you want or need, but then you do a little extra work to dig through all the variations of it to maybe find a cool looking version of that. And that's how I could summarize about 3 or 4 of my hours today at the Innova factory.
I've been there. It's fun. I did enjoy doing that.
Yeah. All right. Ace Run says, signing off for the night, boys. Terry, hopefully we see you at USDGC this weekend. We will be out there Saturday through Monday. I don't know how that math works out, but I'm looking forward to seeing you boys. Keep busting ass. I know you guys are working hard. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Yes, that's something we didn't touch on really, but another quick conversation piece is that Eagle made the announcement earlier a couple days ago.
He was on our board earlier.
Doing USDGC or doing the Pro Tour Championship. What was earlier?
He was on our chat board earlier tonight. Eagles vlog.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
It was a fake.
Nope.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, that's crazy.
The pros come here, Terry. This is where the pros go.
I don't know why.
On Tuesday night. Yeah, Eagle shutting it down for the year, deciding that, for whatever reason, he's going to get it started on the 2023 season, probably getting ready for those Silver Series events.
Yeah,
at the end of the season.
That's what he's gearing up for.
No, he's I think he just kind of made the decision that it's not worth whatever possible injury or recovery he needs to do. He needs to do it and hopefully be ready for next year. And I will be very interested to see his tour schedule for next year. We know he's a top disc golfer. Does he need to hit the tour like some of the other players? Because we saw Paul and Ricky hit a majority of the tour. Will Eagle do that, or will he take his time off because he likes his time off and his privacy and his freedom? I don't know, and I'll be curious to see, assuming he's totally healthy. We'll just say, assuming everything is good with him.
I think that's the number one question is, before he makes a schedule, we have to see, is he 90%? Is he 95? Is he 99% healthy? I think that's what's going to determine where we're going to see him and what he's participating in next year. But yeah, he's certainly going to take events that either favor him and or that just most interest him or excite him to play. Sure. And he's in a very fortunate position that he can do so in the first place. I mean, that's truly crazy if you think about years ago, like somebody being able to pick and choose what events they want to play. But now we're in a very different world for that. Sorry, as I'm scrolling down.
Ray's right. I did say Silver Series. Technically,
yes, you did.
Technically, they're still this year, so I think I'm okay with that. But they are just going to be called Silver events. Sorry, Ray. I will put $1 in the swear jar. It used to be when we'd call the MVP Open Maple Hill Open, but
yeah, or Vibram,
or MSDGC. But yes, you're right. Now I need to get used to saying the silver events.
Funny, you'll appreciate this, Johnny. Out of nowhere, I get a message from an old school player back in Appleton, our good old buddy Brian Bayman. Who texts me tonight out of nowhere. This was hours ago, and he can see on Prize Picks Wysocki, Pierce, Macbeth, Tatar, Heimberg, Evelina, and he says, "Are you busy?" Yes, I'm kind of running a podcast. But then says, "I can bet on disc golf."
Yes.
So one of our old school disc golf buddies from 20 years ago has now just discovered that he can bet on disc golf and wants the inside scoop. How much can I charge for that insight?
Oh, you can charge a lot for that insight. You just better hope it's right.
I mean, yeah.
I wonder what the lines are.
I don't. Maybe I can tell you.
I can log into my account.
I don't know how these work. 58 strokes. 57 and a half, 65. Yeah, they're talking about strokes. But anyway.
Yeah. Do I have any money in Prize Picks yet?
I don't know, but I saw Prize Picks van in the parking lot the other day.
Really?
Like I parked next to it. Yeah.
At USDGC?
I parked next to it.
Cool.
At USDGC.
That's cool.
And it had an AUDL Ultimate player on it. Like,
because they do Ultimate. That's possibly. I wonder if one of them is associated. I do. I have 171 bucks in here. How the hell do I have that much money in here? Huh. I must have won last time and just ignored it.
You're just a winner.
Yeah. So they've got Paul at 57. At shooting a 57.
What's par? 62?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
I don't believe it's the course stats are not up on UDisc yet.
He's going to beat a 57.
You say that. Should I bet on him?
At the house on it.
Okay. I just did, Terry.
Like your whole house.
So you think? Do you think Tatar is going to beat a 65?
Is that just first round?
Yeah, it's just first round. So the way Prize Picks works is you have to pick multiple players and then over under each of them, and they all have to hit.
Oh,
or like 3 out of 4.
Parlaying?
Yeah, you're basically parlaying them. Prize Picks, which is a totally inferior website to Skip Ace, but Skip Ace you can't do real money on yet.
Yeah. All right. Let me read a few more details here before we shut this show down. Why not sell 50 or so AM tour passes and allow them entry into the most AM side events solely to pad the weekend's purse? Why do pros diss the tournaments only after they fail to qualify? What are the same? Wait, are you at the same hotel as the Prize Picks can? I'm here too. Oh. Quadzilla Simmer Down. Are you? I'll disclose my location. I'm at the Cambria. And when I saw the Prize Picks van, it was when I was at the actual course. I love finding random money in random accounts. I logged into old PayPal, had $90. Woohoo!
Yeah.
That's a good call.
Right,
Johnny,
Terry.
are you interested in pushing real gambling with legit sports bet book listing? Do you think it could happen in a few years?
I do think it could happen in a few years. It all depends on what the gambling laws end up looking like. I kind of keep my ear on the tracks for that stuff to wait for the train to come. Right now, it is illegal to individually gamble. You cannot gamble on one person. You cannot gamble on one team in almost any place other than casinos and a few sports book places. But fantasy sports places like DraftKings and FanDuel, you can do kind of similar to what Prize Picks does, or you can do kind of like what Skip Ace does, where you pick a team, because the difference between gambling and fantasy sports, splitting hairs here, I know, but fantasy sports is more of what they consider a skill-based game, where you actually have to pick a lineup. And you're playing against, you're not, betting against a line, so to speak, a single individual line. It's not an individual bet. Because you're doing a bunch of them, there's a fine distinction between that. You can look up there are some state laws that are different and do not accept it. I believe, is it Oregon? Or is it Washington? It's one of those two up there. I forget. I remember looking at the map, and there's 7 or 8 states, so that it's just not legal no matter what you do yet. And in the state of Missouri, you need to pay a $10,000 or $15,000 basically a license to do it. So I would love it if at some point Skip Ace could do something like that. If we can put together there's already a lot of that back end already built in that would need to flip a few switches. I would like to see it where you can compete against other players. So hey, guess what? Everyone pays $1. We pay out the top 40%. And then, everyone does $5 or $10, whatever it is. And then the house takes a cut. If you pay $10, the house takes 50 cents or something. And then all the other money goes into the pool. Because that's how all those places make money. I would love that for Skip Ace. Right now, I'm really happy with it just being a fantasy site where, you can play with your friends. And I charge $10 for a custom league with all the custom rules. So you can do things on your own. And I believe, what's today, the 4th? I think by the 14th is when my web developer said that he would have next year's changes done and all prepped up. I'm ahead of the game, but
damn,
I do plan on actually probably having a few more changes after he finishes with these. So, I'd like to thank the Pro Tour, because almost every dollar I've made from the Pro Tour has gone back into Skip Ace and a developer to develop that website. So thanks, Pro Tour. All right, Terry, I'm going to bet $50.
Get it.
Macbeth goes less than 57. Dickerson goes over 58. And Ezra goes over 61. Enter.
Did you win?
It says I won. Cool. That's, I guess,
All right,
gambling is easy.
All right, I'm going to read a few more things out here. Bob says, honestly, does a pro like Colton trash USDGC after he fails to qualify? He went there attempting to get in the event. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, but, again, timing is a little questionable there. You visit me in January. David, you're talking about me probably coming to Thailand. I'm not there to visit you, but hopefully I see you.
Well, you won't
get that splitting hairs. But
won't
I'll
see him on the
probably
chat.
see you, depending on which island you're on.
Won't see him on the
and
chat
what your
board
limitations are. No, he's back out on the chat board. So if he was suspended, he's somehow back on there. Mariners in the playoffs for the first time in 21 years. I think that's awesome.
Yes.
I can think that's awesome without caring, right?
Yeah.
That's
cool.
where I am on that.
I'm only care, Terry, if they get Griffey back. If they bring Griffey and Ichiro
junior
back,
and senior.
Yeah, junior and senior, and then Ichiro.
I don't care.
And then we'll see. We'll see if Griffey can still swing.
Man, outside of Randy Johnson briefly pitched for the Mariners?
Yes.
Could you name another Mariner that's not Griffey or Johnson?
Ichiro.
Ichiro. Yeah, that would have been my. Okay, name another one.
I'm sorry, Ella. I know you're.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a huge Mariners fan, and I can't.
I couldn't either. I mean, I'm like thinking of the '90s.
Not like an iconic one. I'm sure if I rattled off a name, someone it might be there. But yeah, Edgar Martinez. Good call.
Oh, there you go. Sure. Still wasn't a fan.
You're right.
David John said, "Did you rent a room across from Nigel's?" Referring to Koh Samui. No, I did not. I purposely want to be somewhere I haven't been before. I've stayed in Mae Nam 2 years, and it's been a lot of fun. But I think I want to stay closer to the silliness over on the east side of Koh Samui. Not quite the madness, like I think that happens over on the east side, but I want to stay somewhere different.
I see what I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I just I blocked David John just on the restream chat.
Ooh. Okay. Well, he's right now he's participating, or he's playing nice. Terry, during the off season, do you spend most of your time at
David
home?
John.
How difficult has the travel to Bend been for you this season? The only benefit to, well, not the only. The only thing that I hate about Bend, and this is really, really trivial, or not, is it's the one time a year I don't get to fly with my friends at Southwest. And I'm so used to flying Southwest everywhere I go. I can fly Southwest to Denver, but then from Denver over to Redmond, I have to go United. And I'm just about to get to the secondary level on United for the first time ever. And here's what I hate the most. I'll start with the negative. It's the only way to get out of Bend at a reasonable time is 5:21 in the morning on Mondays. That sucks. It just sucks. That's all there is to it. And then I'm not traveling on Southwest. So, but I've enjoyed my time in Bend, and I'm going to continue to run more flex starts and more silly tournaments out there, I think. And no, I don't spend most of the off season at home because I don't really have an off season anymore. Between tournaments in Florida, California, Vegas, Arizona, Georgia, wherever, there's not really much of an off season for me. He seemed very nice a few years ago. Colton did. Yep, I agree. Terry, you're spicy tonight. I like it. Mike, I hope you're well, buddy. I don't think I ever told you, but I sat and watched you the time that you had your first frozen pizza in like 18 years. And it was very funny. Clearly you didn't have a pizza cutter, which makes sense. It was funny to see. Give it to you for free. I don't know what you mean, David John, but yeah, lodging in Koh Samui is very inexpensive to begin with. So I'm happy to go over to the east side. Picking the lowest FPO player finishes last would be 1,000 points. I don't. That's probably some fantasy chat. Tito Martinez, Jamie Moyer,
Jamie
Ken
Moyer.
Griffey Jr.'s. AM Tour passes will add 50,000 disc golf. The problem is when you put a bunch of amateurs, they're going to slow down the course. And I don't want to say get in the way, but the first thing that's going to be said is, cool, why are these guys taking up spots for when there's 50 other professionals that want to be here? That's my just gut reaction to that conversation. Censorship. Yeah, there's no such thing as censorship when it comes to places like YouTube chats. I wish people would understand that. For the love of God, I wish people would just understand that freedom of speech doesn't mean you can say whatever you want, wherever you want. There's terms, there's services, and then there's just like common sense. And that's another story. I'm not going to get into it. I used to ride a motorcycle to Seattle and see games free after the third inning. They let people in. It was empty till they started winning.
Seattle was like that.
I believe that.
That's almost as bad as the Florida teams. It was for a while.
Correct. I am very Rolf. I don't know what you're talking about. Who's in the booth for USDGC? Eric. Eric, didn't you just send me something recently? Here's what I know with regard to the booth. Ian Anderson and Philo for USDGC, and I believe on the FPO side, Juliana Corver and Charlie not Goodpasture. I almost just said that. Wow. Charlie Eisenhood. I mean, Charlie Goodpasture could do it, but Charlie Eisenhood. So Charlie Eisenhood and Juliana Corver. There's a question about if somebody else will be in there or not. I can't speak to that right now, but those will be the people in the booth. Objectification of women gets a timeout. Sounds fair to me. Why are AMs on her course? Because they paid event purses for the last 30 years. I hear you, Bob. It's censorship when there's no hateful nature behind a comment, but it gets someone banned private. I mean, there's a lot of subjectivity in that. And yeah. Yes, I want a DG guy hat. Okay, so here's a quick, this actually just happened the other day. Somebody made a comment about my hat and saying how they liked it. Oh, a few people have. This is currently a one of a kind. I'll show you my natural. This is one of a kind.
Hats are a pain.
Right? They are, but this is legitimately one of a kind. Yeah. This was put on by some gracious individual, and there's just one DG guy hat with this. The other day, I frat boy hat said, back on "Hey, there. You like that? Was that smooth? Hold on. There we go." The other day, I said, "Hey, it's time. There's been enough requests for these that there needs to be an official set of pink and other various colors. So the DG guy hat will be made available." So thank you. Yes, Philo back in the booth. Johnny, do you have secret plans outside of Skip Ace? You'll focus your free time on next season, including dominating other Masters players.
I'm hoping to be able to dominate some other Masters players, maybe some AM Masters early, and then hope to cash in Masters for a while. I hope to be able to play a little bit more next year. But other than Skip Ace, I don't have any big other disc golf plans that I know of. If I would like to focus a lot on Skip Ace next year, which might, if I'm lucky, mean maybe another podcast.
Boom.
So we'll see. Again, we'll see. I said it at the beginning of this year that I wanted to do it, but then just with a lot of DGPT stuff, and it just didn't work out for me. So I would really like to focus on maybe another podcast, probably not live. It would be a kind of a post-production podcast that I'm thinking I would like to release in a different way. So we'll see.
Over Morse code. That's how you'll be releasing it.
No, as in like
get your pigeons ready.
The way we release these
also pigeon carriered.
Yes. The way we release this is a little different than the way I would like to probably release the future podcast I may do.
All right.
There's
So
a lot of maybes.
speaking of which, I'm going to follow that up with yay or nay. That's all we need in the chat. Yay or nay. You guys need a nightly recap.
Yeah. Yay. I like to usually what I get is I'm usually laying down to bed and then I see like a notification, ding, it's live. And what my wife loves is that I lay in bed then for a little bit and I turn up the volume because I'm not wearing headphones. And so she just hears you
Like an asshole.
drunkenly talk about disc golf and me chuckling and chatting on the webboard. So that's great because you're
Okay.
Yeah. Although it might be different if you're on the East Coast, so maybe I won't quite be in bed yet, but probably.
Depends when I get this party started.
I know, that's just it.
Hold on. Let's warm up for tomorrow.
Terry, please don't. We're almost done here tonight. He's getting more alcohol, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So when we end the show in 2 minutes, you'll be drinking by yourself.
Okay. So I got friends.
No, you don't.
So I see no nays. There's a lot of yays. Ryan Pilcher, Bob, Carney. I appreciate you guys. You keep this train rolling. Super chat will be for the beer money. I made it to McDougal's, Frugal McDougal's, whatever. It's just over the border. Holy cow. Shoot, where'd it go? There is, we'll talk about it later. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be a fun week. It should be a lot of fun.
You should go to Charlotte and go dancing.
Bar Charlotte.
No, the big Metroplex that we went to. Oh, God, what was that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know where you're talking.
I know, yeah.
Anything's possible. Maybe I'll go live. Maybe I'll do my podcast from there. All right. Ray, Patreon, I appreciate it. Fans, let it be known, fans are not fans of Natalie. I don't understand that. Doesn't matter. Surprised no one is doing a live post-tournament podcast yet. I think there's been some. And again, maybe that's a void to some degree. I can only do so much as a one-man show. I'm genuinely looking forward to it, though. I usually break down some, talk a little bit about UDisc, what I saw on the course, what I didn't see. I'm going to have a little bit more intimate knowledge with the FPO side, knowing that I'm going to be doing post-production commentary on FPO. But yeah, I'm super excited about the idea. I brought equipment for it. We're all set up. Everything seems to be working. Internet seems to be good. So hopefully this week, you guys are going to see a few different live nightly shows all on the Disc Golf Guy channel. I make no promises as to how they're going to go, but they'll be here.
I'm going to run a competing one with highlights because I have access to all the highlights.
That's a good idea, except for I have access to highlights. I just don't know how to press the right buttons.
Like I said, I've got access to the highlights and know what I'm doing.
Whatever. You do what you got to do.
Because let's be honest, at some point you're going to click a button and you're just going to go offline.
Probably. All right. I have not tried Founders Mas Agave. I have not. Founders just released some kind of like French toast maple syrup, something or other. I'm not going to say it looks divine.
Oh, it's funny. So did Frosted Flakes.
Okay. They're great. So
They're great.
I don't know where that bottle go. Anyway, I had something that wasn't that, but it was close and it was delicious. Oh, it's over there. And now we just go with the old standby backwoods bastard. But there was something else that I saw that I also picked up. So
maybe we can get them to sponsor our podcast, Terry.
So here's the deal. I was very explicit with Derek over at Gatekeeper. I said, I don't poach anyone else's sponsors. I don't give a, like everybody's worked hard for their sponsors. However, Founders is the only beer I enjoy consuming. And Founders currently sponsors Gatekeeper stuff.
Do they really?
I said, I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just need I just need a little bit. That's all I need. So I'm gonna maybe I'll forge my own way in there, or I'll drive over to Grand Rapids and bang on their door. They're not that far away. But Founders is like, if there's ever one sponsor, if you could think of like 50 potential sponsors and then think of one that's like the most fitting, it'd either be Loud Shirts or Founders or
Your shirts
both.
aren't loud. They're busy, but they're not loud.
So Founders it is. So Founders,
Yeah.
you're watching. You're not, but you should be. Founders, let's talk, because me and your friend, yeah. All right. Toilet. Ask them if they crumple or fold toilet paper. I don't know why that's. I know that's always a question. Crumple's the answer. Terry, if you fly to Portland, check out John's Marketplace. Huge selection of beer from around the world. Impressive collection. I had this conversation with one of the gentlemen from Innova today, an ex-Innova employee. It's been interesting that, as not being really a beer connoisseur or snob throughout all the years, throughout most of my life, and then eventually discovering that I like double barrel aged Scotch ales or imperial stouts. It's essentially like saying, "Hey, I have a brand new favorite disc, and it's second run CET birds that weigh 173." Like, it's a very, very specific genre or niche that then no one else like commonly carries. And it's Johnny, like,
Yeah.
it's the dumbest thing you can do is get attached to a disc that's either out of production or tough to come by.
Yep.
And these beers aren't out of production, but they are very tough to come by, and they're not common. And that maybe that's a blessing, because I like the idea that like 9.5 out of 10 beer stores you go to, they don't have it. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well then I'm not drinking tonight, and I'm okay with that. But then you find it and you're like, all right, it's time for USDGC.
Stock up. I'm getting myself a 24 pack. It's going to be a fun couple days.
So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Let's just say it that way. David John says, looking forward to seeing you in January. I think I technically arrive in February when I get to Thailand, but I am looking forward to it, buddy. I hope you're well. Terry, last time I saw you was at the Mecklenburg Brewery, and I gave you a ride home. That's what I do. You guys are always like, Terry, that's weird. You give strangers and weirdos rides places. David John's one of the recipients of said ride. What can I say? What kind of food do you get there in Rock Hill? Do you try and eat local places when you travel? That's a great question, Ray. And I'll say I have been more diligent. No, I've been more diligent in trying to be adventurous, even though I get the same things at most places. But trying not just stick to exclusively to chain places. Here's a great example. Today I went to Hobo's, which is like a mile from the.
Let me guess.
It's
you got a chicken sandwich of some sort.
Close. I got a Philly cheesesteak with no onions, but add black olives and jalapenos, and Cajun fries, and it was effing amazing. And my point is, it's a brand new place, and although I got the same sandwich I get everywhere else, it was at a brand new place, and it's about a mile from the course, and it's about a mile from my hotel, and Hobo's so has my 2 thumbs up stamp of approval. But no, I'm trying to be. Quick side note: when I arrived in Charlotte on Sunday night, I was looking for a place to eat. It was getting a little bit later, and I went to this taco bar, as it was called. I think that's the name of it, taco bar.
You're not a big Mexican or taco person.
Not a huge Mexican or taco fan, but it was called Taco Bar. And I get there, and this very large gentleman says to me, as I walk up to it, "You speak Spanish?" I said, "No." He's like, "Okay." And then he proceeds to pat me down, like full airport security, pat down.
Did he work there or just some guy?
I think he did. Yeah, or he was friendly. I'm
Not
like,
that-
oh, this is the kind of place this is.
I mean, not that would stop you either way.
Yeah, I'm like, are we done? You sure? Keep going. No. So he pats me down, and I walk in. I am clearly, it's then become obvious, I'm the only person there that
As red
primarily
hair.
speaks English. and it has red hair and speaks English. And then I go up to the bar, I get myself a Corona, and I eventually order a quesadilla and a taco. I go sit down. It is loud as F in there. I mean, it is so loud. And this is during Sunday Night Football. It's super loud in there. And just the music's going, and it's just so loud. And I had at least 4 or 5 different people come up to me and be like, "Hey, man, you doing all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And a couple of people like, "Just want to make sure you're having a good time." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you're part of the party committee, but thank you." And 2 different guys. I had 3 beverages. 2 of them were bought for me by complete strangers, men. And it wasn't that kind of bar that like where that's necessarily an agenda. It just I think they wanted me to have a good time there, and I did.
Good.
So taco bar in Charlotte, not far from the airport. Great Mexican food.
And great service, it sounds like.
Yes. And plenty of guys or people that will befriend you and want to buy you beverage. One guy, I swear to you, no less than 20 fist pumps. Like, just every time he looked at me, he's like, fist pump. I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to go with this. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to go with it. So, and Carney says, this is normal Mexican hospitality. If so, I'm in.
Yeah.
Clearly not something I'm accustomed to. I am in. So it was a lot of fun.
I don't
All right.
imagine Rock Hill area as being the hotbed for Mexican.
Well,
even
I wasn't
Charlotte.
in Rock Hill
You're
yet.
in
I was still in
Charlotte.
Charlotte, but
Even
still,
Charlotte. Like,
there's a lot of Mexican restaurants around here.
yeah, I just don't see that.
A lot.
I mean, I could just be stereotyping, obviously, because people can settle anywhere. You wouldn't expect Milwaukee to be a hotbed, but yet we have a really good, high quality Mexican area that has just a bunch of great restaurants. Yeah, I love Botanas. It's like phenomenal. But hey, what do I know? Well, Terry, if I go there, we're going to Taco Bar.
We're going to Taco Bar. I don't think it was in a necessarily a good part of town. I mean, if you're let's back up. If you are getting patted down to walk into a bar,
then you know it's
like,
safe,
right? Yeah, no, I don't think that's the
you
takeaway.
know everyone in there is not carrying. You know that's a safe bar, Terry. Come on.
I don't think I would go that far. I felt safe. I was fine, but it was crazy. And let's all take a moment to shout out our friends, Sarah and Ben. Come on. You guys are sitting here watching. We love you, buddy. Hope you guys are doing well. Ben. All right. Johnny, do we have anything else to talk about?
I don't.
No, they weren't dressed in leather.
Oh, no. I do have a question for you. Philosophical question.
I got an answer.
I know.
I have an answer.
And you are unique in this for a number of reasons.
Wow.
Would you get a full genetic test?
Sure.
Like the 23andMe kind of stuff?
Wait a minute. Are you saying I'm unique in this because I was adopted?
Yeah. So
why not?
I just didn't know if.
Oh wait, man, I don't want the government tracking me.
I know you're not that way, but
I don't give a shit.
Some people may not.
That's fine.
We had a meeting today with the hospital for my daughter, and we decided we're going to do like a full genetic test, full genetic makeup, whatever. And so
was Maury there? Did he say you are not the father?
No, but that was direct. I'm getting there, Terry. I'm going to address that. So they went through and they basically did. This woman from on the Zoom call from the hospital, more or less, went through all of 8th grade science for me. Like, hey, you have 2 genomes. If you are the primary in this, and then one, you might have a 50%. It was like 30 minutes of that, and all I kept thinking is like, get to the point, get to like the questions. And so they started asking like, oh, do you want to be notified if we find a possible issue with heart disease in your family? Some people want to know, some people don't. They don't want to know that maybe they could be have a predisposition to that. And I'm like, okay, yeah, give me all the information. And then she kind of got awkward and she was like, so there are times that maybe the child doesn't match the father. and Sarah and I look at each other and we're like, we're not worried in this
Sarah's
instance.
like, I know. Go on.
She's like, yes. She's like, can you can you white that part out? Like, and so no, we both were like, yes. I don't believe there were any other children with, Violet's exact issue in the hospital at that date. So I'm fairly certain she's mine. And I saw where she came from. I know she's hers. So, but it was a very the hospital very delicately was like, so do you want to know if this is your kid? But no, we were fairly certain. So I didn't know where you stood, if you had any issue or any desire. Do you have a desire to do that at all? Like, because you know your birth mom now. And so like you don't really have to guess about your genetics. You can kind of ask, but before there could have been, would you want to know that stuff? I mean,
sure, I guess. And this is a little bit of a dated reference, but I'm not Ian Zerning. This isn't 90210 where I was like going to jump in my Corvette and like go hunt down my mom, even though I was adopted like he was in the show.
I must have missed that episode.
Yeah. I don't know. Tiffany Amber Thiessen was in it. Anyway. Yeah, I guess I've never really asked about more of my genetic makeup, but I'm also not opposed to it. Like, yeah. I don't have any privacy issues or concerns with it. If this is coming to a shock, as anyone out there on the board, I'm adopted. Some people are like, oh, that makes sense. No, but I'm
more than adopted. Just Johnny didn't want him. Go figure.
I now know who my birth mother is. I've seen pictures of my birth father, even though I've never met him. I'm okay with that. I harbor no ill will. This is also a great disclaimer to throw out. Like, most Mother's Days and Christmas type time frames or whatever, or my birthday, I often send a message to my biological mom saying like, fuck yeah, you did good. Like, thank you for giving me up. My life with you would have probably been shit. And because she was like 16 or 15 or whatever. And I've lived the greatest life ever. So I harbor no ill will. Now I understand some other adopted kids.
Guess what, Terry?
Maybe
my mom was 16 and she kept me. So suck it.
Yeah. Well, that was her mistake. So one of many mistakes she made.
Oh, Jesus. Tell me
anyway.
about it.
But anyway, no, I harbor no ill will toward my mom. In fact, I can't thank her enough for being like, hey, I can't handle this. I'm not equipped to do so. And I've gone on to have the most incredible life ever. So I guess the question is like, do I care about my genetic makeup of some degree? Sure. If you want to tell me I'm X%, German or Polish or Norwegian or whatever I am, sure, or Irish or whatever. But I'm also not losing any sleep over any of that.
Would you want to know if you're prone to certain diseases? Like if they look at genetic markers, like, oh, your genetic makeup says that maybe you're 60%. I don't know how they show it, but like prone to heart disease or something like that. Would you want that, or was that something that you would just kind of rather not know?
No, I mean, sure, you could share it with me. I mean, just like everything else, though, those are numbers and statistics. I guess it's good to know if they're in or out of your favor, but at the same time, they certainly don't.
They're not
define you.
No, they don't define you. Some people,
yeah, and you know.
It was a really interesting.
Now, if there's a 99% chance that I'm going to develop some particular disease based on my genetic makeup, yeah, I guess it'd be worth knowing that. But if there's a 50% chance, I'm always like,
yeah, no,
who knows?
And it was funny because when they talked about this and they said, hey, when you get this stuff, you may not want to tell your 13-year-old son. like that you don't want to burden him with this type of information. If you find out,
Sure.
you know, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. You know, you don't want to tell some 13-year-old that, hey, guess what? You have a 60% chance of heart failure by the time you're 40 or something crazy. I don't know. I'm 44 and I'm
Yeah,
not dead.
and I always think like
We haven't taken our test yet. We're supposed to get that in the mail in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and I think like I'm what 44 and overweight. Like, why don't I have diabetes? Fuck yeah, I'm beating the system. Like,
I'm already ahead of the game, fuckers.
Bring it, diabetes. No, like I don't even know how diabetes work, but the point is I don't have it yet. So apparently I'm doing okay, and yeah, I don't know. Like, sure, you could share that with me, but I also feel like clearly that doesn't define anyone. Is it good to know there's heart failure? I mean, those are kind of awkward questions when I do go to a doctor, again, being adopted. I go to a doctor and fill out the little form before you go into a doctor's office. And it's like, has your family had this in your family? Or
fuck if I know.
I don't know. Ask the stork. I don't know. Like
Yes, the stork.
003. He knows. No. There's some of those questions I don't know, and I
That's
probably
when you
should
break down
be
in
more
tears. You'd be like, those records are blocked. Like that.
check with child services. I don't know. I mean, I don't. It's funny, the things that I get worked up about, and then the things I don't give a crap about at all. And they probably don't align for most people that are listening. Like, really? You care about this, and you get really fired up, but on other things you couldn't care less. Yeah.
Well, that's a
goes.
funny story. Is that I'm the guy who answered the door for the certified mail to find out that your birth mom was trying to get a hold of you. I was like,
yeah,
hey, what's this?
I'm
Like, Terry, you got a certified mail.
Yeah, and certified mail was so cool to get at the time.
It was. I just
Like, they had
assumed
to
that you
pay
were being
extra for
subpoenaed
it?
for something.
Oh, speaking of which, oh my gosh, we'll quickly talk about this. I apparently, and I am not, this is not in any way a braggadocious fashion. I apparently completely disregarded a jury duty summons for
You're
last
a wanted
week.
man. God, you're.
Well, that's my next question is like, am I in legitimate legal trouble?
I think maybe you could call them and be like, hey, I had an issue come up. I mean, just you could lie.
I'd be like, Katrina Allen was battling against Kristen Tatar and Paige Pierce. Like, don't you guys understand?
Yeah.
But no, seriously. Last week,
Skip down
I
on
was
jury
on a
duty.
flight. Yeah, I was on a flight at 5:21 on Monday morning. I didn't get back until 1:30 or something like that on Monday in Milwaukee. That was the very day I think at 8 a.m. I was supposed to be at jury duty, apparently. And I have no excuse. I probably shouldn't be admitting this publicly. But anyway, long story short, I didn't go. And I've gone in the past. And so it wasn't intentional. It genuinely slipped my mind. And now I'm going to have to figure out what I need to do to call in and be like, sorry. And if you want me to come back, let me know. But yeah, I hope I'm not in any legitimate trouble is I guess the long and short of this.
I doubt you'll be in any real trouble. They'll probably just resend you something for another time.
Yeah, so that happened.
Or call me for bail.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time. Surprisingly, I've never had to do that. Aren't we?
No.
I feel like we should cheers to that I've never once had to call you.
Or vice versa. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Cheers.
And we've done some really stupid shit. So.
Not me, but you. Yeah. All right. I don't know what you get. David John's talking about stuff. High Roller says Terry is above the law, but can't give the truth. I once asked about jury nullification. They sent me home. I showed up for jury duty. Court was closed. I've been there in the past. David John says, I never knew you were adopted, Terry. Is this the first time you've talked about it? Absolutely not.
No, I think
I've never been shy about it. I've never, I'm not disappointed or ashamed.
Smashbox exclusive.
This is in no way. It's never been a secret. I'm not. I'm very open about it. Where it doesn't matter. And maybe part of that. I'll say this. maybe part of that is because I've gone on to lead the most incredible life that I couldn't be happier about. And maybe if I like have had a shitty life, I would then like ride some bitter train or be frustrated about it, maybe. But no, I couldn't be more happy about it. He's also deaf in one ear. That is pretty much true, Ray. Yes, significantly deaf in my right ear.
Do you think your birth mom dropped
Smashbox.
you on your head? Like, do you think that's why you're deaf?
And then she's like, "Oh, this one's broke. Time to give him up."
Can we just get a different one?
She's like, "Let's just fast forward 2 years and I'll make more bad decisions." I'm sorry if you're listening, Carrie. But she's not.
She'd laugh. She'd probably laugh.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think one of my other sisters is normal. Yeah, I don't know. I was tested in second grade, and that's when at that time, it was established that I was like 70% deaf in my right ear. I don't know if that was just something I was born with or something else that happened. Also, my beard, though, doesn't grow in as well on my right side. So it's something on the right side of my face. And maybe I was just dropped a lot. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's my beard and it's my ear.
I mean, were you a chunky baby? Maybe the stork couldn't carry you.
I don't think I was any chunkier than normal babies.
No,
I think I was like normal size.
Yeah. No, you were not.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know about as a baby, but when I met you in middle school, you weren't. So.
All right. Carney says, are there any other FPO or MPO openly adopted? I don't know.
Awkward question. There you go. Write that down. Just Chris Clemens, when you interview him, like, Chris Clemens, were you adopted?
Hey, Chris, nice 7 under. Were you adopted? That would be hilarious.
Just make it totally awkward.
No, why? I don't know.
Wondering.
How's your hearing?
You look like the kind of person that would be adopted.
Yeah, I mean, you're left-handed.
Yeah.
Like, that's like 5% of the population.
Or just make it even more awkward. Just be like, Chris Clemens, did your birth mom want you?
Well, actually, I was told my parents divorced because of me. Well, yeah, me too. Good. No.
Terry, we could. I guarantee you, we could make USDGC fun. More fun.
Yeah, I should come up with a bunch of silly ones.
Get 2 ferns and 2 chairs. You could do like the Zach Galifianakis between 2 ferns.
Like, he is. Those shows are funny. I watched another version. I watched another episode of Afterlife. I don't know what one I'm on, but those continue to be hilarious. But again, those are like, what's the word I'm looking for? The not game plan. What's the plan? The layout. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, the way that if you watch any Ricky Gervais and then you watch like his stand up and then you watch Afterlife, like there's a lot of similarities. And I think of like Seinfeld, who obviously had, his whole really unique way to doing his show with like having the comedy club and then cutting to actual real life stuff. Like, I feel so much like that's the Ricky Gervais Afterlife show, where it's like a lot of the content feels like he's doing his stand up just in sitcom form, which like is kind of funny to think about. But it's funny. And one of our Smashies, Johnny, wrote me the other day, AB, not Anthony Barella, but somebody else wrote me and said, who are your top 5 comics? And this was out of nowhere on Instagram.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, how would you answer that? Let's start there. You're not into comic quite the same way I am, but you kind of
modern
are.
comics. I mean, Bill Hicks. I mean, obviously, I really like
Richard Pryor. Obviously,
no. I don't know enough Richard.
Bill
Pryor.
Cosby. I know how you like Bill. You went out with Bill a few
pages.
Time to find your crayons and your pencils.
I mean, God, I'm so old. I really liked Robin Williams stand up.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle is phenomenal.
Yeah. Okay, that's funny. Yep.
I know he's got, obviously there's issues with him in general, but he's hilarious.
Is he though?
I think he's I think he's very observational.
Because I think my exact
and pretty funny.
phrasing to AB was like, I don't think he's as funny as everyone else says he is.
I think he's extremely.
But anyway,
I think he's
fine.
extremely observational. He tends to tell like longer stories that don't hit a huge haha punchline sometimes, but I enjoy listening to his stand up.
Okay.
Trying to think who else. Should I go through like the ones I watched? At growing up, The Amazing Jonathan, Paula Poundstone, all of them that were on Comedy Central.
Paula Poundstone, Andrew Dice Clay,
Brian Reagan, who still does comedy and apparently is very funny. Reagan, whatever his name was. Yeah, I guess that would be like the. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't watch a ton of modern comedy. Like, occasionally I'll watch a Netflix comedy special, but like nothing. There hasn't been a ton of recent ones that I've really enjoyed that haven't been, older comics probably. Chris Rock is still very, very funny.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Louis C.K. Louis C.K. was very funny, and he probably still is. Mm-hmm. I just haven't really, since the incident, I kind of am just.
Oh, that incident. Is that what we call it now?
Yeah, since his run-in with the Me Too movement, I've kind of just been,
yeah, it was a whole nother story. Yeah, it was interesting. I think he was listening to our after show and somehow comedy came up and he asked, who are my top 5 comics? And I feel a little bit basic, I guess would be another phrase to use with it, in that who I listed off. Like I saw Daniel Tosh when he was I'm going to call it his peak, but I saw him, a handful of us saw him in Madison, Wisconsin. And the way that I described him was, I wasn't done laughing at his previous joke before he was already killing me with his next joke. Like dollar for dollar, like joke for joke. I couldn't get any better value than Daniel Tosh.
We saw Aziz Ansari, which I really enjoyed quite a bit too.
And I said Aziz Ansari, who I think was definitely pretty good. And then you think of like your Bill Maher's, who I think is pretty good. I remember seeing Lewis Black in Madison not that long ago, a couple years ago in Madison, Wisconsin, and he was okay. And like any comic, like there's a very particular like style, and either you like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And Lewis Black was just okay at the time. I think Anthony Jeselnik is funny. He's dark and he's very slow. Like he's the exact opposite of Daniel Tosh in that, like his delivery is so incredibly slow and methodical, as opposed to Daniel, who's just so much more quicker with them, but yet very entertaining, just the same. And before he was really big deal, and he was basically just a YouTube sensation. And he now trends to a much younger crowd. Like Bo Burnham was hilarious when I saw him at not Riverside.
I don't know if he trends to a younger crowd anymore.
Well, at one point he did.
At the time,
and that was he was at Turner, and I remember I saw him at Turner Ballroom, which Shasta and Paul Oman were at not too long ago for a different concert. But anyway, he was at Turner many years ago, and Bo Burnham at the time was hilarious. So I don't know. There's a few that just like jumped out at me. Some of which I've seen in person, most of which I haven't. And then,
you watched the Bo Burnham Netflix special, the COVID one, right?
Yeah, and I didn't.
I liked it.
It was easy for me not to like that.
Oh,
like
I enjoyed it.
Is that Inside?
Yes, I think that was
Bo
it.
Burnham Inside. I didn't care for that. Like, let's just say he's put out 20 pieces of work. I've enjoyed 19 of them, and that would be the one I didn't.
Yeah, no, I
from what I could tell.
I mean, I've watched most of his other stuff on Netflix specials and some of the YouTube where he does the funny piano thing, and like that's all right. But I enjoyed Inside much better. But he's just good. He's just I don't know if I'd seen comedy guy.
Yes, yeah, he definitely is. One of these days, Mark my words, people. Somebody will have to hold me to this one of these days. And maybe it's going to happen in a situation like this week, for example, where I'll go to an open mic night in like Charlotte, but I won't tell anyone and I'll just go do it alone. One of these days, I would like to think that I will do that. I keep saying that. I don't know if
you
it'll
would get
ever
up and do
happen,
open mic?
I would consider
Do
it.
you got a tight 5 minutes, Tara? You can
No.
Then I
Because
probably
as they say,
wouldn't-
like a tight 5 is really more like 2 minutes.
Yes,
but
I
no,
probably wouldn't get up there.
I don't. I have notes jotted down in a Google document, and I just would love to try it someday. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I keep thinking that it will.
I think I've told you this story. I don't know if I've ever told it on the podcast about the absolute worst open mic night that I ever went to. It was at the Safe House here in Milwaukee.
Okay.
They had an open mic comedy night. And so you had these people come up, and most of them were not funny. Like I sat there, I was like, all right, there's a chuckle here or there. Some gentleman walked up on stage, and we're all sitting there. I remember, here's so-and-so. Everyone kind of gives a little golf clap. And he comes up, and he's very difficult to understand because he's like slurring his words. And at first I was thinking, like, what's going on? And it becomes clear, almost. I couldn't tell if he had special needs and was trying to do comedy. And in that aspect, I was like, okay, like, it's very difficult to understand him, but, you know, good for him for getting up there, whatever. But he kept going and kept going. And I was like, all right, nobody's laughing at this point. It's gone on too long. And finally, it's like, okay, your time's up. He stops and just says, in the clearest English I've ever heard, you guys just don't know what funny is then. And I was like,
ouch.
You were pretending to like be handicapped telling jokes, and then you just walked off stage like normal. And I was like, it was like the most awkward. Like everybody's like looking at each other, and there's probably 25 or 30 people in this like kind of smallish room. I forget who I was even with at the time. Because it wasn't my wife. I don't remember if I was there by myself. Went to an open mic night one night, but everyone was like, what did we just witness? Like, it was the worst awkward feeling and not funny thing that I think maybe I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And that kind of plays into the idea of like, clearly you feel like you're, like the response is so much different if you go to somewhere where either no one knows you or no one else is going with you or whatever, and you just go, and if you bomb, you bomb. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't know any of those people, no big deal. I don't know. I don't want to say like I bask in the idea of that, but clearly that's where, I don't know. Who knows? Todd
Alan Risley says like Andy Kaufman.
He was before our time. Is that fair? That's a fair statement? He was before our.
Well before.
He was before our time. He might be your
late
time.
70s, early 80s for Andy Kaufman stuff.
And I'm not saying you're old, Alan.
Alan, you are. But no. And Andy Kaufman was he was getting at like the guy I was watching. It just didn't. Yeah, I mean, Andy Kaufman was quirky, very quirky, but this guy was just literally pretending to have some sort of mental handicap. And it was like afterwards, it just felt so, again, it was so weird. Like, cause at the time you're thinking when he's doing this, you're like, okay, you know, good for him. And then it just got worse and worse. And then at the end you were just like, wow, I just feel really gross and dirty now. So.
Yeah, I could see that. Just imagine Terry going on Kill Tony and Bert Kreischer is the guest.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know what Kill Tony is.
So the funny thing is, I've heard of Bert Kreischer clearly through disc golf. I had no clue who he was before disc golf.
Oh, really? Yeah, he was his.
And I don't know who Kill Tony is either. So
his shtick was absolutely he's the guy that gets on stage and then like he immediately just takes his shirt off, and he has a slightly better build than me.
Yeah, I've seen him, obviously. So he's just like a very
that's just like his
physical comedy kind of.
Well, it's not necessarily that it's physical comedy, but for whatever reason, and I honestly I haven't watched enough of him to know for sure, but he's just like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna get on stage. I'm not in shape, but let's just rip my shirt off, like just to get that out of the way. And he does a podcast, Two Bears, One Cave, or whatever. And he can be funny and everything else, and that's all great. But like part of his absolute like shtick is, yeah, let's just get on stage, and the second I get on stage, I'm just going to take my shirt off. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's very much like just his like go-to.
Okay.
Like that's just part of his act. And so he does all of his act, and just, I guess for lack of a better phrase, he's just basically embracing like, hey, I'm not like a supermodel. This is just me. And here, I don't know if I'm letting my guard down or what his logic is to it, but
it's different for
again,
everybody.
he's like,
but you can do that.
He's like a notch in better shape than I am. Like, yeah, but not by much.
You can do that without actually taking your shirt off. Like there are
correct.
There are
like,
better
I
ways.
can own it.
Yeah.
I can just wear like a blue,
but whatever.
coastal shirt.
Okay.
But yeah. Carlin friend Tom Segura is definitely his that's a co-host of his podcast, and I haven't really gotten into it, but I know it's Two Bears, One Cave, I think it is, and apparently it's a pretty popular podcast. And I always say the same thing. I don't dismiss podcasts, and I don't dismiss disc golf media and all these other people, because I think I'm in any way, shape, or form any better than, or I just don't have time to consume them, and so I don't consume any of it. Bert's stand-up isn't as popular. There's a documentary about George Carlin, so on and so forth. Anyway, all right.
Let's wrap this up, Ter.
Yeah, you guys have spoken. Looking forward to an incredible week here in South Carolina. As soon as I'm done here, I pretty much then travel over to Bend. We're going to have 5 days in Bend, which is another quick story. Like the play-in day on Wednesday, and then Thursday. Well, I'm sorry. They're going to be playing in Charlotte. I'm going to be in Bend, but there's a play-in day on Wednesday. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. We already talked about the massive payout, Barbasol, blah, 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 blah. All that awesome stuff.
That's assuming you're not arrested from missing jury duty.
Good point. You are right on that. This week should be a lot of fun. I hope to join you guys nightly. Johnny V will be right there telling me that the audio is gone, or there's double or triple audio or whatever, as I click on these buttons. But
or hosting
really honestly
podcast.
Looking forward. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I look at all of the standard staples that are out there on our podcast. So thank you guys for joining. I guess that's about it for Johnny V. I'm the Disc Golf Guy, 423, coming to you out of Rock Thrill, Charlotte, Milwaukee, all that stuff. USDGC Throw Pink Women's Championships. We'll see you on the Disc Golf Network when you step inside the Smashbox. That doesn't make sense, but we'll see you next time.